All right. I think we're in.
Noise.
So, for those of you, let's see. Is there? I don't even know if there's people watching or not. It says live viewer 0. All right. Well, anyways, today we're gonna have a little watch party for this banging event of Flutter Engage. I hope. Did you put up a tweet for Ask Flutter?
No.
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 I just put out one asking them about the iOS jank issue, and I saw a couple
Nice.
people had some of the questions about that specific issue before the streaming started, and I was curious about what your opinion is about that.
About the Yankee show.
Yeah, the yank.
Like I haven't really had a problem with it, to be honest. But in the end, it was like I usually develop towards Android and desktop and web. But like I really hope that they look into it more.
By the way, do you hear like is the music too loud here compared to like my voice?
Nah, it works.
Sweet. But I kind of had the same opinion. I feel like it's a little bit exaggerated of how big of a deal it is. Like it's for sure a problem.
Yeah.
And like I hope it gets fixed and everything. And I hope it gets fixed soon. And I think it might maybe should even be a higher priority than it is.
Yeah.
But like it's only on iOS. It's only on startup. There's like some things you could do to minimize it. I think there's like you could load in the shaders early or something.
Yeah, you can like warm up the animations or something like that.
Yeah. And like
and most of the times normal apps don't usually use that amount of like animations anyway. Like the dribble style animations aren't like really what you do in normal apps.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. Hey, Tadas, your voice seems to be a little louder than Robert's voice.
Does that mean that I should have my voice higher or his voice lower?
Yeah, let's see. Should he turn up or should I turn down my voice? Way louder. Okay. Do you know how to turn up your voice?
Yeah, I can turn it up.
Do it.
Is this better? I don't know either. Hello?
Robert's mic expensive.
Is this better now or am I too loud now?
Let's see. Maybe I might be the one that's too loud. But I'm going to adjust. I wish like there was a better way to figure all this stuff out.
I don't even have a like nice.
That's too loud.
I want like those kind of nice audio interfaces where you can see like your audio like peaking and stuff like that. Now I just have a dial that I'm just randomly turning.
I feel like you gotta turn it down a bit because your voice is like just a little bit because it's getting a bit distorted.
Yeah, I will lower it.
Not bad. Can you
maybe this? I don't know.
Watching now, I think it sounds good. I feel like maybe I just gotta turn mine down somehow. Volume. Does the volume button do anything? It sounds like it should. Or I could put it away a bit. There we go. All right. Watching Tech Lead Smack Talk Flutter just made me want to master Flutter more. How do you feel about? Have you seen the Tech Lead videos about it?
Yeah. I usually watch quite a lot of his videos actually. I don't have anything like against the guy. But of course you can see the way he makes videos that he knows how to get views out of the videos. And like most of his Flutter videos get shared quite a lot in the community. So he's doing something right now, but like the way that he brings out his point isn't the most accurate. Like when he talks about the Yankee issue, for example, he's showing like videos of apps running in debug mode, and like it doesn't really showcase the real issue.
I think he definitely knows how to clickbait correctly. But at least the first video made about Flutter was like completely wrong too. I feel like there was so many points that were like just incorrect, and I'm not a big fan of the guy. I feel like, I mean, like he has I agree with some of his points. You can't like say everything's wrong that he says, but just that's just too clickbaity for me.
Yeah. Well,
How's your
Francisco, I know you, so. Oh, we don't have 1080p. Are we scrubs?
I'm pretty sure. Let's see.
I can only set 720p. We're scrubs. Sorry, guys. It's not my fault. It's Tada's.
How do I change it? Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't know how to change it.
General
I can only select.
broadcast quality is 720p. What the hell?
You can you can always turn the stream on and off again with high quality.
Should I do it?
I don't know, guys. Do you want it to be 1080p? I guess so.
You need to pay more. So I have a trial of the pro version, Francesco. Do I need to pay for the extra big trial, or is this like
The big trial.
$50? Oh damn, yeah. I think
Oh.
I got the $25 one. So I think 720p is as good as it gets. Robert looking handsome.
Hey, I'm handsome. Yeah. You're looking handsome.
Turn down your mic like a slight bit more,
Yeah.
just because it's very
Is
slightly
this better?
I think so. I mean, it was
Clue.
fine when you were talking lower, but then you were going a bit higher. It got a little distorted.
Okay, I turn it down a bit more.
But I think it's good. What do you guys think about this event? What upgrades are you expecting? Oh, let's go through the tweet you made. In fact, that's a fun thing to go through before the actual event starts.
That sounds like a good idea.
Robert put out a tweet saying, "Guess the announcements for Flutter Engage." Let's see what we announced. Your guess is no safety will be default. I say that's pretty much a given. Oh, and you can see my guess right away. My hope is for big improvements in Flutter Web and to be stable. Francesco said, "Why don't you just fix a jank issue? It's easy." I just always forget Sim Twitch to also turn on 1080p. I swear, I'm gonna stop the stream right now. No, I think
fixed it. I added a nice comment.
Here?
No, on YouTube.
Oh, I see it. Nice quality, 720. You put it super.
It's the only fix for 1080p.
I can't afford the $50 a month thing. So your guess is no safety will be the default. I think that's pretty good guess. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Yeah, my biggest hope is Flutter Web to be stable, and I think I've seen some rumors that it definitely is going to be stable. But then this is the one that I think is super interesting. That all platforms might potentially be stable.
Yeah, like the way that Tim has like written tweets and on different streams, he's been like super enthusiastic about what they are like going to announce. So like a feeling is that they won't announce stable on all platforms, but the way that everyone talks about it on the Flutter team, it feels like they are going to do it.
I mean, I feel like cool. It'd be pretty weird, right? Because desktop and everything wasn't even in beta yet.
Yeah.
So like they're just gonna skip a whole like.
Yeah, they will not skip. So they probably will still be in like, or they will move up like one tier. But I don't think they will be unstable. But who knows?
Yeah,
like the way that Ubuntu has promoted it now, like with the last tweet they made.
Yeah, I don't know if whoever saw this or didn't see it. Ubuntu said that Flutter is the default choice for Ubuntu apps, and this happened like today. So it's kind of hinting towards maybe it is stable. Like, why would they say the default choice is Flutter for like every Ubuntu application if it's not even stable yet? So
yeah,
Oh man, Francesco, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's the second time I've ever got a super chat.
Oh, you're rich
Nice,
now.
nice man.
When can we get Flutter which doesn't need to write native code anymore? Like the way that Flutter is built is more of like a UI framework. So most of the times you will find all of the native implementations through packages where people already like written them. So if you look at Xamarin, they usually bridge everything with C# code. But what they did with Flutter is more like you get like being able to actually write the native code, which I think is a huge plus. Like most of the times you don't actually have to do it, but it's really nice to have that like functionality or that approach to be able to do it.
Definitely. Oh, this guy said so native ad supported. I feel like you said you'd really like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that would be super sweet.
I guess I
I,
haven't really worked with ads much, so I don't really know much about like how
I
big of
believe
a.
like in December or I don't really know, like end of 2020 at least, they posted a tweet on the Flutter Twitter. I believe it was that one, or if it was, or it's Google, I don't know. But anyway, where they looked for beta testers for like production apps for
Mhm.
native ad support. So that could be like super huge if they actually have that. I remember like 2 years back, I wanted to have like ads shown like between list items, but
Mhm.
they didn't have any kind of like, yeah, those native ad support. You could just have a banner and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, if they do bring it, I feel like it'll definitely be like a pretty sweet thing. It'll just be more stuff that like comes without needing dependencies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's always a good move. Oh, thank you for suggesting me a name for a super sticker.
Best name.
Should we suggest them a name? Keep it. Need 1080p hard to see in San
You can
Antonio.
scroll in or zoom in.
Yeah.
Easy fix.
Um, also, I think so. Like 1080p is obviously sweet, but like I remember on Twitch, I had people like saying that it was like mobile viewers that it's too much for them
Yeah.
to handle. And like if you, I think YouTube might allow to turn it down, but I don't know if Twitch allows you to turn it down. Do you
No,
guys even
Twitch
see
doesn't
that?
allow. Yeah, I don't think Twitch allows it until you have like a bigger audience, so you
Yeah,
can get that feature or something like that.
yeah. So I don't know. I'll try to keep all the text big, and I feel like in the Flutter Engage event, everything's gonna be pretty big. So 720p will hopefully be enough. And I don't want to pay $50 for this. $50 just
It's time.
yeah, that's expensive. Like even for the $25 to even do this, um, I had to find a free trial. I'm lucky I found that because I was like, I don't know, $25. Do you ever Twitch? I used to, but then just there's been a lot of changes going on in the past like month, so I've kind of been slacking. But I am gonna pick it up again for sure. Um, Robert, why don't you do Twitch?
Like I created a Twitch channel actually, but it's just been stale. I just took the name and then didn't do anything about it. Like my idea was to when I actually stream that I would like use like some kind of tool for streaming on multiple platforms.
Mhm.
But then yeah, I haven't streamed. So
Yeah, this I mean, StreamYard seems to be a good tool to go on both platforms, but I don't know if you want to pay $50.
yeah.
What about bull safety? You excited? Oh, oh. During discussions, please be respectful on our community guidelines. Okay, it's starting.
Ever traveled somewhere and saw kids playing soccer? There's something really fascinating about how sport transcends all.
fine margins make all the difference, which is why I started using Push.
Push is an advanced strength training wearable. Part of our mission is to optimize athletic training, making sure that when an athlete is walking into the gym, they're actually getting the most that their body can afford to give that day.
Push gives me rep by rep feedback in real time, so my lifting becomes more flexible and efficient, which helps me improve my strengths as a diver.
We were constantly getting requests for Android support. And one of our challenges is that we were a small team, and we knew that trying to support 2 different code bases was going to be super difficult. With Flutter, we are able to save roughly a day a week in just syncing 2 different code bases. It's really enabled us to push out a lot more features a lot faster. Being a wearable, we really needed to make sure that the Bluetooth connection was going to be robust and reliable, that we can handle any type of data transfer that we need. And we were blown away by just how performant Flutter was. We really wanted to make sure that our technology can scale and can help impact athletes' lives at various levels of development. And that's something that I'm really proud of.
Push gives me motivation to see how far I can go and what I can achieve. That ultimately means the Olympics.
Welcome to Flutter Engage. We're so glad to have you join us virtually wherever you are. It's been a tough year for many, and so we're thrilled to share some good news as we show you some of what we've been working on and announce some new things that we think you'll like. Our theme for this year's event is to highlight the flexibility and portability of Flutter as a complete UI toolkit for building beautiful apps for any platform. And today is a key milestone for Flutter with the launch of Flutter 2, a major upgrade to Flutter that builds on the momentum and foundation of previous releases and opens up a broad range of new target platforms for production use. Over the next hour, you're going to hear us talk about Flutter on Android and iOS, as well as web and desktop. You're going to hear from companies like Microsoft, Canonical, and Toyota. And you can learn more about how our work on Dart provides a unique technical envelope for your code, providing a portable, productive apps. Flutter is the first UI platform that is designed for an ambient computing world. And this vision is unique to Flutter, a portable toolkit for building beautiful, native, fast experiences wherever you might want to paint pixels on the screen. Our goal is to shift you from having to start with the platform you're targeting and focus instead on what you want to create. Some UI toolkits impose tight constraints on what you can build. They limit your creative expression to what fits within the toolkit. But Flutter allows you to handcraft beautiful experiences where your brand and design comes to the forefront. Flutter is fast. It compiles your source to machine code. But thanks to features like stateful hot reload, you still get the productivity of interpreted environments, allowing you to make changes while your app is running and see the results immediately. And of course, Flutter is open, with thousands of contributors adding to the core framework and extending it with an ecosystem of packages. So the big news in Flutter 2 is that we broadened Flutter from a mobile framework to a portable framework, unleashing your apps to run on a wide variety of different platforms with little or no change. Right now, there are already over 150,000 Flutter apps out there, and that number has doubled just since last summer. These apps come from big teams at big companies, as well as entrepreneurs and startups who simply want to share their idea with the world. And we thought we'd show you So let's talk about what's in Flutter 2. You can think of Flutter 2 as a free upgrade for your app. We've shipped about 10 updates to Flutter since our original launch, but in this release, we add support for something worthy of a major version upgrade, a major increase in the number of users you can reach. If you've built a Flutter app so far, you've probably been thinking primarily about iOS and Android. But with Flutter 2, your app can target 4 additional platforms: Windows, macOS, Linux, and the web. And when you add iOS and Android to that list, you can see how uniquely flexible Flutter is, with native support for 6 different platforms and the ability to tailor the experience for each platform without compromising performance. Flutter is perfectly suited to both rapid iteration and high-quality results. So to demonstrate Flutter's versatility in action, we asked our friends at G. Skinner to create a demo app that spanned all these platforms. Let's show you what they've created.
Hi, everyone. Here at G. Skinner, we've created a variety of Flutter apps that compiled to and ran on multiple platforms. But for this project, we wanted to go beyond that and build something that purposefully considered the norms, user expectations, input devices, and idioms for each platform, create an app that truly felt at home on every device. We also wanted to leverage the unique strengths of each platform to power a creative workflow. After some brainstorming, we decided to build a scrapbooking app called Flutter Folio. Let's take a closer look at how the app works on different devices. Mobile devices are great because they're portable, follow us everywhere, and they usually have a camera built in. Given that, we focus the small screen experience around capturing content. Let's say you were on a walk and you bumped into Tim and his rabbit Carl. You could use the mobile-friendly UI to quickly navigate to an existing scrapbook and reminisce about shared experiences. Or navigate to your furry friend's folio and snap a few pictures of Carl to add in later. Of course, larger screens provide a lot more space and improved precision, which makes them ideal for creative work, like editing a scrapbook. So when you get back from your walk, super excited to add in your new photos of Carl, you can fire up the app, maximize it via the native controls and the custom title bar, and use your scroll wheel or arrow keys to navigate to a scrapbook you're looking for. While editing, you can use desktop-specific idioms like multi-select, native menus, keyboard shortcuts, context menus, and scroll wheel zoom. But of course, not all large screens are the same. When working on a touch device, the UI adapts in a variety of ways, such as providing larger hit areas and exposing functionality through contextual buttons instead of right-click menus. Last but not least, we wanted to target the web. These days, browsers are capable of almost everything you can do in a native app, so the full app runs there as well. But the web is unique in the ease with which content can be shared. We leverage that strength to let you share a read-only version of your scrapbook. For example, to share your amazing new page with Tim and Carl, so they can follow along in real time as you make new updates. This URL is actually live right now if you want to go check out Carl. Of course, we barely skimmed the surface today, so I'd like to invite you to visit flutter.gskinner.com, where you'll find more info, source code, and links to the app. We also learned a ton building this, and we're excited to share that knowledge on our blog and via Twitter. Ultimately, we were able to build an app that runs great and feels at home on 3 form factors, 5 OSs, and the web, while reusing over 95% of our code. We built Flutter Folio with best practices in mind. You can check out the source code to start making your apps platform adaptive today.
If you want to experiment with this app further, the source code is available at flutter.gskinner.com. And for more on great design practices with Flutter, check out the separate talk with Philip Hracek that we're posting live today. Of course, there are hundreds of other new features in Flutter 2. We continue to make progress on foundational areas that you and your customers care about, improving performance and stability, supporting the latest UI trends and widgets, and increasing accessibility. We've completed our work on a new state restoration API. We've support for running on Apple Silicon. We've added multi-line text editing and keyboard shortcuts. We've added interactive scroll bars. We've implemented null safety throughout the framework, and we've closed nearly 6,000 issues. The full list of pull requests merged is a 200-page document to give you a sense of the size of this upgrade. And we have a blog post with a lot more details. Flutter isn't just being used outside Google. Over 1,000 engineers inside the company are using Dart and Flutter to develop apps today, representing over 30 different teams. And the apps that you see on this list here are already shipping using Flutter. One of the largest apps from Google using Flutter is Google Pay. And Timothy Jordan recently sat down with Piyush Ranjan, who's the Vice President of Engineering for Google Pay, to ask him about their experiences with Flutter. Let's hear what they had to say.
Hey Piyush, Timothy here. Ever since Google Pay moved to Flutter, we've been getting some questions from our developers. Was it an effective move for you? And would you recommend it to other teams?
Hi Timothy, thanks for asking. In a nutshell, I'll say yes, it was absolutely effective. You might have heard of Google Pay, but let me first tell you the scale of the problem. We are trying to launch in 30 countries on 2 platforms, Android and iOS, and serve users in all these countries. We have 150 million plus users. Now, as a result, we have 2 code bases, right? iOS and Android, and there's total 1.7 million lines. We also had feature disparity. The feature being implemented in each was happening at different rate. Tech debt was building up, and we needed more and more engineers to keep up on development on these code bases. So we started looking at Flutter, and after weighing the pros and cons of a rewrite and a migration, we decided to rewrite everything. The good thing was we ended up with 35% smaller code base, 1.1 million lines compared to 1.7 million lines. And at the same time, our tech debt went down by 90% on a per engineer basis. Now, once the rewrite was done, we also found that our engineers were 20% more productive in terms of feature implemented because of the rewrite. We were also able to merge all the duplicate release process, experimentation, the launch process, security reviews, because now everything was done on the Flutter code base. Plus, the best part was with every engineer working on the same code base, we were able to take the iOS engineers and Android engineers and get 50% engineering efficiency immediately because they were all working on the same thing. Now, if I had to go back, I would absolutely make this decision all over again. And to answer your question, yes, I will recommend it to any team that builds on multiple platforms.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today, Piyush.
So one of the most interesting things about mobile development is that phones come in so many different shapes and sizes. And one of the latest trends is foldable phones. One great example of this form factor is the Surface Duo from Microsoft, which combines the best of Android with the Surface team's hardware engineering expertise. And we're happy to announce that Microsoft has been contributing code to Flutter over the recent months. Here to tell us more is Guy Merrin, who leads Surface Developer Experience Engineering.
In the last year, we've seen new device form factors emerge, the foldable and dual screen devices. This new form factor is great for productivity when you're in your home office or when you're on the go. The device adapts to you when you're creating content, playing a game, watching a video, typing, or just reading and browsing the web. For us, the mobile developers, it means new scenarios and user experience to explore in our apps. First, your app can now run on 2 screens and not just one. You have more screen real estate to show content and interact with your users. Thinking about 2 screens, you can also utilize various dual screen design patterns, such as the least detailed view, the companion pane, and other ways to organize your application UI. Foldable form factor also provides opportunities for your app to share content with another app. For example, when 2 apps are running side by side, and by adding drag and drop functionality to your code. We want developers to take advantage of foldables and dual screen devices, regardless of the platform or app that they're building on. Today, we're happy to announce that we're collaborating with Google and bringing foldable support to Flutter. We're contributing code to enable Flutter apps to take advantage of these new opportunities with devices like the Surface Duo, but also enable it on other devices, like from manufacturers like Samsung and others. Let's see a demo now. The best way to demo anything Flutter is by using the Flutter Gallery app that we are all familiar with. This is the Surface Duo emulator, which you can download today. Let's run the Flutter Gallery app and look at the widget. The app is started on a single screen, so let's span it across both screens now. As you can see, the app reacts natively to dual screens and repositions the assets across both panes. This is typically the first step that you will take in your app. Start thinking today of the new layouts that you may want to show now that you have 2 screens. But Flutter is all about widgets, so let's see those in action. We've added foldable support for the existing Flutter widgets. For example, when you use a dialog, it will now be hinge-aware and will display according to your choice on the right or left pane. We've also modified other modal routes, pop-up menus, and other widgets. Let's move on. We've added a new widget to help you position assets on 2 screens. We call it a 2-pane widget. You can use it to place assets on the right pane or on the left pane. It will also display correctly on a single-screen phone or a tablet-like device. The 2-pane widgets makes it easy to support all these new form factors. But enough with demos. Let's dig into some code now. We've added display features to Media Query. You can use it to query the type of displays you have and the position of the hinge. When you're using the 2-pane widget, add your own widget and content to either the left or right pane. Let's summarize what's new. Foldable and dual screen devices are available now and ready for you to try them with your app. You can use a dual screen device or a dual screen foldable emulator. The code and widgets we've previewed here are ready for your review and your feedback. We want to meet developers where they are at, and today we're super excited to share this news with you, the great Flutter community. All the samples and widgets are open source and ready for your contribution. We're excited to see what you build with them in your app. Thank you, and back to you, Tim.
Let's talk about portability. Last year, we gave you an early preview of web support. So today, we're delighted to announce that Flutter's support for the web platform has hit the stable milestone. This is a huge leap forward for Flutter, building on the portability of Dart, the power of the web platform, and the flexibility of the Flutter framework to deliver the same experiences on the web as on mobile. And it's exactly the same Flutter framework. It's not a fork, it's not a different edition. The web is just another device target for your app. So not every web page makes sense in Flutter, but we think that Flutter is particularly suited for app-centric experiences. Things like progressive web apps that integrate with a user's environment, including installation, offline support, and tailored user experiences. Single-page apps that deliver a client-rendered experience, and existing Flutter mobile apps that want a fast path to the browser. I thought it'd be fun to chat with Dion Almeida, who is responsible for the web developer ecosystem here at Google, including, of course, the Chrome browser, and get his take on how Flutter fits more broadly to the web platform as a whole. Dion, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks so much for inviting me to share my excitement, really, about Flutter 2 and the availability of web support. Now, we think the web is an incredibly broad tent. It was born as a content platform and enables richer capabilities for publishers than ever. But we've seen this open platform evolve into a great one for use cases such as commerce and, of course, apps. Now, the broad tent has allowed for many web frameworks and approaches to innovate, offering you, the developer, choice. And there's plenty of room for Flutter to join the fun. Now, the web has many strengths, including ubiquity and reach. So if you're building a Flutter app, you now get to reach users outside of app stores. And with the power of URLs, users across operating systems or device types could be directed to any part of your app, from links that are shared by friends, clicked on in search, from an email, from anywhere. So I remember when Spotify came into CDS one year and shared their story of their first progressive web app, and how it drove so much engagement because many users were simply looking to listen to a song, and were now able to go straight to that action versus facing any install friction. High-quality PWAs like these are now possible due to the web pushing on two areas. First, platform improvements. These enable fast performant rendering, and we know this is really important to the Flutter community. Second, bringing capability gaps to the web in a soft, trusted manner. Project Fugu is our main umbrella for this effort. PWAs are just a great fit for Flutter because of the marriage between, on the one hand, a world-class developer experience for app development, and with the other, the web platform ingredients that can be incorporated by the Flutter engine. So you get improvements for free as both Flutter and the web evolve. And we've seen this at work, as Flutter's web support has transitioned from tech preview to beta to now production. The Flutter team were able to try different rendering approaches, starting with the DOM, but then CanvasKit taking advantage of new APIs to help with ergonomics and speed up performance. This is where WebAssembly and WebGL open the door for massive optimizations, which the Flutter team has done wonders with. We're collaborating in many other areas, such as improving text metrics, new accessibility APIs, and more. We hope that you and the Flutter team collectively keep pushing us further to enable the next generation of experiences, because we really do know that we've only just begun. So with the Flutter and Chrome team working well together, we can iterate on web platform features that Flutter can abstract and make easy for you to use, so you could just focus on your app. Now also, users are clamoring for high-quality PWAs. So Flutter gives you a great way to ship them, and I can't wait to see what you, the developer, do here, because I've seen how the Flutter community always delivers on high-quality, creative experiences.
Leon, thank you so much. It's great to have you join us.
Thanks again, Tim. Appreciate it.
So since we announced beta support for the web, we've been focusing on some major architectural improvements that extend and optimize the core Flutter framework for the web. Perhaps the biggest thing that we've been working on since the preview, as Dion mentioned, is performance, and we've been making a ton of progress. We recently switched our default for the desktop browser over to a new CanvasKit renderer that combines Skia and WASM to couple a lightning-fast web graphics engine with the productivity and ease of use of Flutter. And we're seeing huge performance gains as a result. So I want to show you an example of this with a demo from Felix Blaschke, who's a developer in Germany who's been experimenting with Flutter graphics on the web. Even more fun, I can take the same demo and run it multiple times simultaneously on the same machine, thanks to the power of Flutter. Performance is important, but it's not the only thing that we need. A Flutter app that's running in the browser should feel like a web app. So we've been adding features to Flutter that help you use the best of the web. For example, hyperlink widgets, text autofill, control over address bar URLs and routing, and PWA manifests. And thirdly, we want to make Flutter web experiences feel right, whether you're using a mobile phone or a laptop with a keyboard and mouse, and regardless of what shape and size your browser window is. So we've added interactive scroll bars and keyboard shortcuts. We've increased the default content density in desktop modes. And we've added screen reader support for accessibility on Windows, Mac, and Chrome OS. I want to show you one example of the kind of app that shines really well on the web. iRobot is the company behind the popular Roomba robot vacuums, but they also have coding robots that empower the next generation of innovators. Let's take a look at their root robots.
Your child may have what it takes to become the next great digital visionary. You just have to allow it to take root. Coding shouldn't be something just computer scientists do. It should be something everyone can do. And Root makes that possible. It's easy for coding to feel abstract, but Root teaches computer programming in a new way. It starts with a language so simple that a young child can use it even before they know how to read.
iRobot built their app with Flutter, and today they're launching the web version of their experience. So here you can see the app running in the browser using the same code as their tablet app. On the left side, you can see their visual code editor, which lets you drag and drop commands and flow structures that will run on the robot. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a simulator that shows a virtual robot and lets you test out your app before running it on the real thing. They have a whole library filled with different project ideas and 3 different coding levels within the project aimed at different age levels. And of course, everything you see here is built with Flutter, including the simulator, with the same code shared between iOS, Android, and web browser. It's really cool to see iRobot using Flutter for educational purposes. And I hope you'll check it out yourself at code.irobot.com. Of course, we're using Flutter's web support ourselves. One example that will be familiar to most of you is Dartpad, our web-based scratch pad for exploring Flutter and Dart code. We also use it throughout our documentation, so you can see how to work with a widget in line in your browser without first having to copy it into your app. There's so much more to say about running Flutter on the web, and so we have a breakout session dedicated to this topic, where Mariam Hasnani and John Ryan walk through building and deploying a web app with Flutter. So you've already seen how portable Flutter is, with the ability to go from mobile to web. And the great thing about building on open source foundations like Skia is that we can take this work further still, including 3 platforms that together reach well in excess of 1 billion users: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Today, we're delighted to announce that we're also opening up desktop to the stable channel of Flutter, enabled with an early release flag. This release lets you produce standalone executables for each platform, macOS, Linux, and Windows. And you can even use the developer tooling provided on each platform to submit apps into the store. We're excited that everyone can now run Flutter natively on their development workstation. This isn't just our work, it's been a community partnership. Microsoft has contributed a number of pull requests to the Flutter engine to use the latest Windows runtime APIs when running on Windows 10. On Linux, Canonical has been a fantastic partner, and I'd like to have them tell you about some of their contributions to Flutter.
Hello, I'm Ken Van Dyne, Engineering Manager for Ubuntu Desktop at Canonical. When desktop application support in Flutter was announced, we saw an exciting opportunity to make Linux distributions, including Ubuntu, an attractive target platform for Flutter app developers. Flutter's native multi-platform story is growing rapidly, and we wanted to be at the vanguard. We worked with the Flutter team to bring desktop Linux support to Flutter, making it easy for app developers to publish their apps for Linux. By making Linux a first-class platform in Flutter, we are inviting application developers to publish their apps to millions of Linux users and broaden the availability of high-quality applications available to them. We not only enabled Flutter for Linux, We also worked with the Flutter team to publish the Flutter SDK as a snap in the Snap Store, the App Store for Linux. By publishing the Flutter SDK as a snap, we've made it very easy to install and set up your development environment to build mobile, web, and desktop apps with Flutter on Ubuntu. Even with just these basics in place, we're at a very exciting point in our Flutter journey. Linux support for desktop apps is rich enough that we can recommend it for developers to use today. We continue to support Flutter for Linux, keeping it in sync with other desktop platforms. But that's just the start. We also want to give developers a rich toolbox of window types to create effective user interfaces across platforms. To do so, we will work to bring full multi-window support to Flutter for Desktop across all the desktop platforms that Flutter supports. We are working with the Flutter team at Google on the specification now, and we will start the engineering work very soon. Of course, plugins are an essential part of the Flutter app ecosystem as well. We are working on enabling popular Flutter plugins for Linux, including Flutter support for Firebase, Bluetooth, network connectivity, desktop notifications, and more. Furthermore, while enabling app developers to bring their apps to the Linux desktop, we thought it would be nice to bring along the Ubuntu style as well. Ubuntu has a very distinct style, which we are proud of. We call this style Yaru, which is a community-led effort within Ubuntu. We have worked with the Yaru team to bring Yaru to Flutter, which takes material as the base and applies the Ubuntu style, colors, and fonts. This enables app developers targeting Ubuntu to match the distinct Ubuntu style with ease. Now that we have enabled Flutter for Linux, for other app developers, it's time to further our commitment by building our own Linux apps with Flutter. As we've already announced, we are developing our next generation Ubuntu desktop installer in Flutter. Soon, every user who installs Ubuntu desktop will be doing so with our new installer built in Flutter using the Yaru style. Along with the new installer, the out-of-the-box experience for devices preloaded with Ubuntu will also be powered by Flutter. Choosing the installer as our first app written in Flutter is a bold move, to say the least. It's the first thing our users see, and as everyone knows, that first impression is critical. It not only has to be beautiful, it has to be robust and reliable. It has to run on a wide range of hardware, ranging from old PCs or laptops to the latest hardware on the market. The user experience can also be very complex, with advanced dialogues for disk partitioning, supporting a huge variety of possible configurations. We feel Flutter is up for the task, and choosing it for the installer is telling the world that choosing Flutter for Linux apps is a great choice. The desktop team had not only worked to make Linux a first-class citizen in Flutter. Flutter is the default choice for future desktop and mobile apps created by Canonical. We look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ken. It's a really big deal for us that you picked Flutter for the very first experience users have of Ubuntu, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with Canonical. So we talked about how the key theme for the Flutter 2 release is portability, upgrading your code to be able to run on 6 different platforms: iOS, Android, web, Windows, macOS, and Linux. But there are even more screens out there beyond the kind of operating system that you might have on your phone or your PC. So I'm delighted to introduce another customer who is using Flutter to bring beautiful user interfaces to light in a critical part of their own product. Toyota is the world's biggest selling automaker, with over 9.5 million vehicles sold in 2020. And with cars, beautiful, tailored user experiences matter. Toyota are building Flutter right into the heart of their core product. And so I want to hand over to Daniel Hall to share more about their plans with Flutter.
Hello, I'm Daniel Hall, Chief Engineer at Toyota Motor North America, as well as Global Chief UX Designer at Toyota Connected. Basically what that means is I'm responsible for leading design and development for our next generation in-vehicle infotainment systems. Today, we're excited to announce that Toyota is partnering with Flutter to bring a best-in-market digital experience to vehicles by building infotainment systems powered by Flutter. Using Flutter marks a large departure in approach from how in-vehicle software has been developed in the past. While we're not ready to share our final product just yet, we'll take a little bit of time to talk about why we chose Flutter and how we're using it at Toyota. So why did we pick Flutter? At Toyota, we continually evaluate options for bringing the best possible user experiences to our customers. Flutter immediately caught our eye for a number of reasons. Foremost, Toyota customers expect a consistent and high-performance in-vehicle user experience to match the overall quality of Toyota vehicles. Flutter's rendering engine provides good performance in a constrained environment, and features like AOT compilation give us the consistency we're looking for in an in-vehicle technology. Flutter also allows us to provide an in-vehicle user experience on par with what customers have come to expect from their smartphones. Everyone can probably think of a bad experience they've had interacting with touchscreen apps outside of their mobile phones. These apps are often sluggish or just don't feel quite right. What we're doing with Flutter at Toyota directly addresses that problem by leveraging Flutter's cross-platform mechanics. Flutter's done a great job of packaging touch mechanics that just feel right no matter where they run. Finally, after noting Flutter's performance traits, we were really sold on Flutter's developer experience. Despite releasing our apps on a single target platform, we leverage all the multi-platform tools that Flutter provides for the pipeline from design all the way to release. Even as an alpha feature, desktop support combined with hot reload provides a fast development workflow. The variety of different release targets that Flutter supports, such as iOS and Android tablets, are useful for all sorts of physical and digital user testing. We can even leverage web support as an integration into design tools to improve our feedback cycle with product designers. Of course, this developer-friendly workflow isn't just for our own benefit as we create software. Our ultimate goal in using Flutter is to streamline in-vehicle software development, resulting in a better customer experience. A technology that enables high productivity with a relatively low barrier to entry allows us to create a tighter overall feedback loop in our design and engineering processes. These faster iteration cycles allow us to collect and integrate feedback from our customers earlier and more often, which helps us create the best experience for our customers. We talked a little bit about why we chose Flutter, but what are we doing with it that is unique to Toyota? Well, to start with, we're using Flutter's Embedder API to leverage the technology in our infotainment systems powered by automotive-grade Linux. Flutter Engine's architecture makes it relatively easy to support embedding in our target environment. It's just a matter of cross-compiling the engine and wrapping it in an embedder. The Embedder API is fairly easy to use and allows us to integrate our Flutter apps within vehicle systems. Additionally, we've created several in-house tools that enhance Flutter's developer ergonomics by extending them to include our design process, all under the same umbrella. Our overall goal is to support a workflow that enables design tools to generate code so that validation and running software is immediate. Both Dart's language design and the Flutter SDK's software design have enabled us to support such tooling. For example, Flutter's approach to declarative UI and code as configuration allows us to very easily perform code generation based on designs without any complicated or confusing middle tiers of configuration. Most importantly, while developing these Toyota-specific tools, Flutter's open source principles and high-growth developer community have been critical to our success. Without the support of the large and open ecosystem, we couldn't extend Flutter to enable our in-vehicle use cases. At Toyota, we see working with open source software as a positive investment towards our in-vehicle user experiences, and we look forward to playing a role in the open source Flutter community. We can't wait to share more details of Toyota's partnership with Flutter in the near future.
So from cars to web browsers to laptops to phones and tablets, Flutter truly is unique as a UI toolkit in its flexibility. By bringing together beautiful, fast user experiences with a productive development environment that lends itself to exploration and iteration, all delivered as free open source from Google. There's nothing quite like it. Let's now go one level deeper and talk about Dart, our client-optimized language for fast apps on any platform. Why does Dart matter? Well, Dart combines a unique set of capabilities for building apps. For starters, as you've seen already, Dart is portable with compilers that generate highly performant Intel and ARM machine code for mobile and desktop, as well as highly optimized JavaScript output from the web. The same Flutter framework source code compiles to all these targets. Secondly, Dart enables true iterative development with stateful hot reload on desktop and mobile, as well as language constructs designed for the asynchronous concurrent patterns of the web. And thirdly, Dart offers Google-class performance across all of these platforms, with sound null safety guaranteeing null constraints at runtime as well as development. There really is no other language that combines all three of these capabilities together, and it's the reason why we often talk about Dart as the secret sauce behind Flutter. Now, we've not been standing still with Dart, so Bob Nystrom is going to tell you about some of the work we've been doing in Dart to upgrade your app.
Thanks, Tim. I'm very happy to tell you that we have shipped null safety for Dart. So now the type system helps you eliminate null reference bugs. This is the biggest change to Dart since we added sound static types in Dart 2. With null safety, we didn't just add non-nullable types to the type system, we also added a slew of features like smarter flow analysis, late variables, and required named parameters, so that your Dart code isn't just safe, but easy to write. The changes are so big, in fact, that the only reason we aren't calling this release Dart 3 is because we managed to ship null safety without breaking your code. Instead, we allow null safe code to coexist with null unsafe code. This lets you migrate to null safety incrementally when you want, and we provide automated tooling to help you. When you migrate in return, Dart gives you more than most other languages with non-nullable types do. Null safety in Dart is sound. That means that when your program is fully migrated, the type system guarantees, like a mathematical proof, that no non-nullable expression can ever evaluate to null. This guarantee is great for confidence in your code, but it's even more valuable for the compiler. Chips are so complex today that we need sophisticated compilers to make the most of the hardware. Compiler optimization is often about detecting that some operation isn't needed and eliminating it. That optimization is only safe to perform if the compiler can prove that the operation is never needed. Sound null safety gives the compiler that proof when it comes to null checks. Here's some Dart code. The getAge function simply returns the value of a field on a given instance. Here's the assembly code our compiler generated before null safety. Since the parameter to getAge could be null, the compiler has to emit a null check before the field access. Here's what you get today with null safety. Since the field's type is non-nullable, there's no need to check for null. The generated code simply accesses the field. Our 10 instruction function is now only 3. That's a small change, but real programs contain thousands of these checks. So eliminating them means less code to download at install time and less to execute at runtime. Of course, working on Dart isn't just about new features. We are constantly improving the performance of existing features too. A quote I love from an algorithms book is, "Efficiency determines the boundary of what is possible." When we make something twice as fast, your app can be twice as rich and interactive. Here are a couple of other improvements we've made. The Google Pay team recently rewrote their flagship app using Flutter. They ramped up fast and wrote a ton of Dart code, so much that they started hitting the wall where the size of their application was going to harm adoption. So we worked to unblock them so that they could use Flutter's compile size optimizations, which got their app 14% smaller than it was with the default compilation settings. Servers often speak UTF-8, but Dart's internal string representation is UTF-16. We found out that UTF-8 decoding was a bottleneck for the assistant team, so Aska on the VM team rewrote our decoder, hand authoring some parts in x64 and ARM assembly to take advantage of vector instructions. The result is anywhere from 2 to 20 times faster than before. When you want to access features unique to a hardware platform, you need some kind of interop system, which Flutter has long had using asynchronous platform channels. Recently, we've been working on a new lower-level synchronous way to call native code named Dart FFI. That system is now out of beta and ready for production use. Null safety out the door, we get to turn towards the next batch of language features. I want to talk about one area we're exploring to give you a feel for how we look at language design. Whenever I talk to developers coming to Dart from Kotlin, the top 3 requests they have are non-nullable types, extension methods, and data classes. So we have the first 2 now, so let's talk about the last one. With the data class, you define a type with a set of fields, and then the language gives you a constructor, equality, hash code, and copying operations for free. It's essentially baked-in behavioral policy. The problem is that methodologies change faster than programming languages. If a few years from now users decide that persistent data structures are better than immutable value types, we can end up with deadweight language features. So what would it take to be able to define policy at the library level? How could we enable a Dart user to essentially add data classes to the language themselves? What I'm talking about here is metaprogramming, code that produces other code. Metaprogramming is already common in Dart using code generation. If you've used Angular Dart or the built value package, you've already run Dart code that generated other Dart into your app. But code generators can feel heavyweight, and opaque, and kind of bolted on. So we're exploring adding static metaprogramming features directly to the language. Our goal is to enable frameworks like Flutter to eliminate some of the verbose code you have to write today. I'd love a metaprogramming feature expressive enough that you could use it to define a data class system that feels as natural as data classes do in Kotlin. Now, we don't know what the solution will look like yet, but we're actively exploring the design space. Okay, that's a lot to absorb about the language, but a fast language is no use if you can't productively write code in it. So next, Kenzie's going to talk about developer tools.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, everyone. I'm Kenzie from the Flutter team, and today I'll be showing off 4 new tooling highlights available with Flutter 2. The first new feature we'll look at is one we call Flutter Fix. As part of Flutter 2, we've done a lot of work on consistency and tidying up the framework to make our APIs more approachable and to make your code cleaner. Now, I know what you're thinking. Framework improvements are great and bring all sorts of new and improved functionality to you, but usually they also come with some breaking changes to your code. Well, fear not, because what we've also done as part of Flutter 2 is created a tool called Flutter Fix that does all the heavy lifting for you to migrate deprecated APIs in your code base. For example, I have the budget tracker project open in IntelliJ, and this is a sample app that hasn't been updated in a couple years now. So now that I updated to Flutter 2, there's some analysis errors to address. You can see that it's using a couple deprecated APIs. So let's click on one of these warnings and see how we can solve the problem. I can see the deprecated member here, as well as the quick fix icon. And the quick fix option allows me to automatically migrate my code to the new API. So now I can see my code has been updated and the warnings have gone away. We've added quick fix rules just like this one all throughout Flutter. And as we move forward with new breaking changes in future versions, we'll add new quick fixes to help you migrate your code. Flutter Fix helps us keep the API fresh without breaking your code, so give it a try. And now that we've moved our budget tracker to Flutter 2, let's move on to the second feature I'll be showing off today, null safety in Dart. To do this, we'll fire up the null safety migration tool with the Dart migrate command. Right now, my code is in a state where null safety is not enabled, but the migration tool will enable Dart null safety and help me migrate my code so that it's compatible with the null safe runtime. So I'll open the tool, and this tool analyzes our code to determine what can be non-null and what should be nullable. And from this, the analysis tool displays suggested changes with the explanations for those changes. So for our case, all looks good to me, and I'm just gonna go ahead and accept the changes and apply this migration. So if I come back into my code, I can see that my code has been updated to null safe Dart. And now that we've migrated our code to null safety, we can still use nullable types, but by default, our object references will not be nullable, eliminating a whole class of bugs from our app, making our app smaller, faster, and more robust. And that's just the tip of the iceberg on null safety in Dart and on the migration tool. So check out the null safety deep dive to learn more. For the third tooling highlight of the day, I'm going to show you some new Flutter debugging tools. So let's do a little bit of work on the budget tracker app. I'll get it running here next to IntelliJ. And if I play with the app a little bit, everything looks good, but I want to make sure that everything looks good also in landscape mode. Oh, and it does not. So it looks like we have an exception here in the run console. And I can see that a render flex overflowed by 282 pixels on the bottom. Now, looking at this error output, I can actually directly navigate to the error causing widget in my code. But that's not as helpful as we'd like, because what I'd really like to be able to do is go directly from an error message to inspecting that widget in Flutter DevTools. But luckily, we have created a new feature that allows me to do exactly this. So when an overflow error occurs, your IDE will show you a message in the bottom right window of your screen. And this message describes the error that occurred, as well as gives you the option to inspect the error-causing widget in the Flutter DevTools inspector. So let's do that. This opens up the Flutter inspector directly selected to the error-causing widget. And moreover, we can see this directly in our IDE. Using the inspector in the past would have required you to open DevTools in your browser, but now we've actually embedded DevTools directly in your IDE. So whether you're using VS Code, IntelliJ, or Android Studio, you'll always have access to this powerful tool that gives you insights into your running Flutter app. So let's get back to the problem at hand and use the Layout Explorer to solve this issue. I can see that I have some unconstrained heights here. So let's fiddle with the flex values in the Layout Explorer to see if I can fix the problem. And there we go. Problem solved. The overflow error went away. And now I know that the single child scroll view was just missing a flex value of 1. And that means it needs to be wrapped in a flexible widget. So what I will do is come over here and wrap this single child scroll view in a flexible widget. So now it has the flex value of 1 that it needs. And if I come into the run console here, do a hot reload, I can see that there are no more exceptions and the issue has been resolved in the app. Over time, we'll be adding similar functionality for other common errors to make it easier for you to go from problem to solution using Flutter DevTools, all without leaving your IDE. And last but not least of our tooling highlights, I'm going to show you some new features in Flutter DevTools. I've already shown you how the inspector can be embedded in the IDE, but you can also open DevTools in the browser, where you'll not only have access to the inspector, but also more sophisticated debugging tools for things like performance, network, memory, and more. Some of this new functionality is available in the Layout Explorer itself. By popular demand, we have added the ability to show a visual representation of fixed layout details in the Layout Explorer, in addition to the flex layouts we already support. So now you can debug layout issues for all kinds of layouts. We've also added an app size debugging tool to DevTools. So let's see this in action with the Budget Tracker app. I have already created the size analysis file for my app. So I'll go ahead and import that and analyze the size. We can use this tree map in the tree table below to explore our app size and visualize the space occupied by different classes and libraries. Looking at the overview of my app, the assets are a little concerning. I only use one image in this application called Headshot, and it's rendered as a really small avatar in the app. But I can see here it's taking up 1.6 megabytes of space, which seems like way too much for such a small image. So now I can revisit my assets and optimize the image or use a smaller version, and then I can verify the improvement using the diff viewer in the app size tool. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have. So be sure to check out the Flutter 2 announcement post to see all the highlights and new features. To get these tools, all you have to do is run Flutter upgrade to get the latest Flutter 2 build. Thanks for tuning in. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Kenzie. Our developer tools are another example of the unique flexibility of Flutter, built with Flutter, for Flutter, and integrated into whatever tool you're running. And for those of you who want to hear more about how Dart null safety works and how to migrate your apps to null safety, check out the breakout session from Leif Peterson. Okay, so we've seen how Flutter 2 expands Flutter from mobile to web, desktop, and embedded devices. We've talked about Dart as the secret sauce that provides Flutter with a portable, productive language runtime with new features such as sound null safety that offer increased robustness and performance. But the Flutter ecosystem is much broader than just what we provide. In fact, there are over 15,000 packages now for Flutter and Dart from big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Adobe, Huawei, Alibaba, eBay, and Square, to packages like Lottie, SQLite, and SVG, as well as individual developers like you and me who are packaging up useful functionality for others to use. One great example of a useful package is from Sentry, who are publishing a major update to their Flutter SDK for their popular crash management and release tooling. This package provides tools to help developers ensure their app is healthy on all their target platforms, offering deep insights into exceptions and crashes, whether they occur in Flutter or in underlying components. We're also today announcing a major update to our Flutter plugins for several core firebase services: authentication, Cloud Firestore, Cloud Functions, Cloud Messaging, Cloud Storage, and Crashlytics. We've updated all these packages to support sound null safety, and we've overhauled the Cloud Messaging package in particular. But there's another major package we're releasing today, and I want to hand over to Zoe Fan to tell you all about it.
Thanks, Tim. Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe. I am a product manager on the Flutter team. There are many ways that mobile developers get paid for their work. Monetizing apps via ads is probably one of the most popular paths for many mobile developers. Today, we support ad formats such as overlay banner, interstitial, and rewarded video ads. However, many developers have been asking us, where is inline banner? Where is native ad? Because in order to create a beautiful and seamless user experience, developers want to display ads as part of their content in existing Flutter view and customize it to match the look and feel of the app. Therefore, today, we're excited to announce an open beta for the Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter. This is a brand new plugin that provides inline banner and native ads in addition to the existing overlay formats. Also, in this plugin, we're unifying the support for Ad Manager and Ad Mob. So no matter what size publisher you are, this plugin is able to tailor to your scenarios. We've been piloting this plugin with some of our early customers in a private beta program, and many of them have successfully launched their apps with these new formats. Swa Musica is one of them. Today, it is our great pleasure to have Alan, the CTO of Swa Musica, to share his experience with us all. Let's welcome Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan, and as Zoe told you, I'm the CTO of Swa Musica. Swa Musica is the biggest Latin American music platform for independent artists in the world. We support more than 16,000 verified artists in publishing and distributing their music on the platform to more than 10 million monthly active users. Our content is 100% user-generated, meaning anyone is invited to upload music they've created. In 2020, we rewrote our Android and iOS apps in Flutter and started testing the Google Ads beta plugin. Since we are a free platform and we need to monetize each user the best way possible, we must have a great UX UI. But how it's done today, with overlay banners, we can hardly call it an okay experience. Because of that, we were excited to be invited to participate in the private beta of the Ads plugin, where we could implement those banners in the widget tree at last, just like a normal widget. Simple and clean. This made it possible for us to create the best experience possible for our users, while still monetizing from advertising. Okay, let me show you how it works. We want to put our banner right here on this part of the album page, so when we scroll, it will scroll together. We start by creating a stateless widget that receives ad unit name and a list of sizes. Then we will define our banner as the publisher banner ad that receives our sizes ad unit, listener, and the publisher ad request. We can never forget to load the banner. On our listeners, we're gonna listen for the loaded and the failed events and print on screen if needed. On our container now, we just need to put our width and height and the magic widget that will do the trick, the add widget that received our defined banner. Now we just need to add our newly created widget to that part of the page. It's the SM banner. Add unit, I'm going to put the add unit defined before. It's the add mob banner app. With the sizes, I will put the large banner. It's the 320 by 100. Just need to save, hot reload, and it should appear right now. Okay, we forgot to save the widget. Okay, hot reloading. And there's the banner. It should also appear in every page. As you can see, it scrolls together with all the widgets as we wanted. That's it. You don't have to only take my word. We've had amazing metrics showing an increase of performance since we made the change. When we launched the new app with the Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter, we saw a 350% increase on impressions with a 43% increase on CTR and 13% increase on our eCPM. That's it. Hope you guys liked and saw how easy it is to insert ads in our apps with the new Ads plugin.
Thank you, Alan, for sharing your experience. And also, huge thanks to many other developers who helped to beta test this new plugin and make our mobile ad solution more robust. The Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter is available today for you to download from pub.dev. We hope this new plugin helps you unlock more revenue growth for your Flutter apps. If you're interested to learn more about how to monetize your apps via ads, we have a breakout session later, and we look forward to seeing you there. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you, Zoe. You know, community is at the heart of all we do as an open source project. We have over 750 contributors to the core Flutter framework alone, to say nothing of the tens of thousands of you from around the world who organize and attend meetups, write blogs and samples, create packages, and file issues and feature requests. Flutter is an attempt to raise the bar for UI development everywhere. And so it's not just a Google product, it belongs to all of us. As someone who's been privileged to be able to travel around the world and meet with people using Flutter, I'm particularly excited by the impacts Flutter has made in Africa, where there are some of the most creative and entrepreneurial developers I know, drawing attention to an often overlooked part of the world. So I wanted to introduce you to a few friends now.
I'm a Flutter developer from Lagos, Nigeria.
A software engineer from Ghana.
Mombasa, Kenya.
Port Harcourt, Nigeria.
Luanda, Angola. I'm a Flutter dev from Ghana.
Towards the end of 2017, I just saw that Flutter is released and it's by Google.
I discovered Flutter in 2018.
I discovered Flutter from communities.
From a friend of mine.
A friend of mine introduced me to Flutter.
Turning my designs into full-fledged applications was always a painful process until I stumbled upon the Flutter website early last year. I spent a while building a few CSS-inspired effects for web using Flutter. What I love most is the creative freedom it gives you. It's been fun.
So I've built a couple of apps for clients. I have built a couple of user interfaces and shared them on GitHub. You have the freedom to arrange code the way you like. That is really important to me and it fascinates me.
With Horilo, you can basically sit side by side with the designer and change themes, colors, designs, and preview it as you're doing it. And I've worked on 5 different real-life applications using Flutter.
Flutter gives me complete control over my interface. There are no limits to what we can do with Flutter.
I get a couple of my inspirations from my own designs, again, designs from Dribble, from other people, and looking at existing native applications, I can be able to say, okay, what if I try to do the same Flutter?
I love design, and it's always exciting to bring designs to life. I love how I'm able to build consistent UIs across platforms, and I love how my apps run very fast.
So Flutter has opened doors for me.
I have gotten a couple of jobs from Flutter.
I get the opportunity to earn a living for myself doing something I really do enjoy.
It has enabled me to work with companies in India, in the UK, and in the US. This is my Flutter story.
That's my story.
So we've got lots of other great content for you today. There are 4 breakout sessions. There are some community sessions. There's a leadership roundtable, AMA, with representatives from Flutter and Firebase, and new code labs and demos to explore. We hope you'll join us for some of these. But before we're done, one last video of a new Flutter app that we think you'll love. The first Wallace and Gromit feature-length story in over a decade is coming out, and it's delivered through an app built using Flutter. Let's see what the team has created.
The big fix-up needs your help. We're using the latest technology to invite everyone to come and help us.
Hi, I'm Beth, Product Manager at Fictioneers, and I'm here with my colleague Rex to talk about a brand new project we've been working on for the last 18 months. It's a new storytelling experience featuring the lovable Wallace and Gromit, and it's called Wallace and Gromit, The Big Fix-Up. Our goal with the Big Fix-Up was to create an innovative app that delivered meaningful content to your smartphone, spanning a variety of different types of media in real time. For us, harnessing Flutter was an obvious choice. It was a great fit for the breadth of media we wanted to share, as well as for the real-time storytelling components. Firstly, Flutter and its plugin community enabled us to quickly navigate a complex native integration. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Rex Raphael, our senior software engineer. Rex developed an open source Unity integration specifically for our project, which is available for developers now.
With this 1 week, we're able to ensure compatibility of our Unity AR tech stack, such as AR Core, AR Foundation, and all the libraries. And we're quickly able to validate and establish the value of presenting the casual gameplay and media in Flutter using less resources by having rich but shorter AR interactions provided by Unity. Moving forward, Flutter Plugin API made it easy to maintain the interaction. Method Channel API is easy to understand and allows us to make bidirectional communications between Flutter and Unity while retaining that beautiful and high-performance Flutter rendering engine that just makes our app look and feels great.
Thanks to Flutter's animation support, we were able to quickly create a unique look and feel for our Wallace and Gromit app through animations and user interface. In particular, the pre-designed behavior made it easier for us to achieve our goals. From that, we then customized the effects to suit our Wallace and Gromit style. We're also able to implement drawing-based animations using Adobe After Effects, Body Moving, and Lottie. Something that really helped in terms of efficiency was that we were able to validate our approach to the UI through wireframing. Thanks to existing material component library, we were able to quickly bring together components that built the backbone of our application. Iterating on our wireframe app to bring in custom, higher fidelity design components was helped greatly by the component-based architecture. Overall, Flutter helps us to achieve our ambitious vision of storytelling, and we're really excited to see where we can take it in the future. If you want to check out how we've used Flutter and play the big fix-up yourself, you can download the app now for free on the App Store or Google Play.
Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Brogdon and welcome to the Ask Flutter Leadership Roundtable live at Flutter Engage. How live are we, you might ask? Let's just say there's a decent chance my daughter might wander in here at some point. So if you see a 4-foot-tall version of me wander into the shot, don't worry, it's all part of the fun. Speaking of guests though, we have a bunch of leaders from Firebase and Flutter that have sat down to answer your questions. Let me get them introduced to you. First up, how about Eric Seidel, Flutter's Director of Engineering?
Good morning, Andrew. Nice to see you. Nice to be here.
So of course you have been with Flutter since the beginning, right? Like you started with Flutter back before it was even called Flutter, right?
Yeah, we started this project 6.5 years ago now. Ian, myself, and a couple other folks, and yeah, it has been a wild ride.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us here today. Speaking of Ian, Flutter's tech lead, Ian Hickson. How you doing?
Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
Yeah. And you were telling me the other day that you got started on the project when somebody passed you in a hallway. Is that right?
That's right. Adam passed me in the hallway. Adam Barthy, he was one of the other co-founders, and he asked me to write some documentation for us, write some specs for what the project was called at the time, Sky, I believe. And I was like, sure, I'll happily write some specs for you. And then a few weeks later, I started writing code, and I never looked back.
That sounds like my story. I started coding and never didn't want to do anything else after that. Also with us is Mariam Hasnani, a Flutter product manager for the web.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
So Mariam, you're responsible for sort of defining how Flutter works on the web, right?
Yeah, we've been hard at work and we're excited for you to build with Flutter Web.
Cool. And of course, last but not least, you know and love him from Stack Overflow and a bunch of Firebase videos. Frank Van Puffel, better known as Puff.
Hey, Andrew, and hey, Flutter developers. I'm so excited to be here. I brought help. Sparky is going to answer the questions together with me, so it's going to be great.
There you go. Awesome. And of course, speaking of questions, we have some that have come in on Twitter already and on YouTube comments from our promo video back a week or so ago. But we are taking live questions. Behind the scenes, Andrew Fitzgibbon from the DevRel team is monitoring the YouTube chat and Twitter. And so if you have a question right now, go ahead and type it into the chat. He'll be pulling those and we'll get to as many as we can. That said, let's get going. First question up, looks like we have a fun one to start off with. What is the coolest dashatar you've created or seen? Eric, do you want to start off with this?
Sure. So full disclosure, my dashatar was the wizard with a very pointy hat, maybe to match my pointy hair as a manager these days. But I think the coolest one I've seen is the knight with like the helmet and the sword. I didn't get that one, but I really like it.
Ian, how about you?
I got a Dash who was holding a tablet with computer code on it. And when I looked very closely at the tablet, I noticed it was JavaScript, not Dart. So I suspect that she's been moonlighting on our Flutter web team.
There you go. Well, speaking of Flutter Web, Miriam, did you get the same Dash guitar or you get a different
No,
one?
I did not. I didn't know that we had Dash working on web. But I think I got the superhero one. But the coolest one I've seen on Twitter today is the one that looks like Tim Sneed.
Frank, what about you?
Yeah, I did not see that one, but what I've been doing, actually, I've been trying to create a mashup of Dash and Sparky. So I've been mashing them together quite a bit, didn't get it fully right, but luckily the Flutter team came to the rescue. So if you check Firebase on Twitter, we actually have an awesome custom Dash guitar for us right now.
Well, that's the poll you have with our team right there. All right, awesome. Let's go into another question. This one came in on Twitter. This is from Jamba Ardev, I believe, or John Bardev. When will Flutter Web be ready for production? Eagerly waiting for it. Miriam, you're the PM for Flutter on the Web. What do you think?
So great news. As of today, Flutter's web support is now available on the stable channel. So now you should be able to use web as a target device for your Flutter apps without having to enable any flags, which means for those of you who already have existing Flutter web apps, you can now build your app in the stable channel. And if you're new to building Flutter web apps,
that was insane. There were so many announced there.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, the plan I'm going to go with, if I see a good question, I'm going to turn it back on. But if it's like boring questions like, oh, is Flutter stable? Like, we already know it's stable here, so it doesn't really matter. But damn, like, let me go through. I don't even remember what all happened. There was so much. So we got Flutter Web.
Yeah.
All the, hold on, I want to hear this one.
Really focused on building a foundation for rich interactive web applications. So think of things like if you have an existing Flutter mobile app, you can use the same code to build a web version and then expand your user base so that now you are reaching web users as well. I think we're also additionally a good fit for building progressive web apps or PWAs or single page applications. So those applications usually have a lot of dynamic content, a lot of interactive UI. And so the reason we really believe those three are the best fit is that we still have some work to do around really supporting those document-centric type pages that you see on like traditional HTML with a lot of rich text static content. And so I think right now we're really, really good for web applications.
That is sort of Flutter's bread and butter, right? Application UI. Right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chaimon or Kaimon. 1984, that's a great question. Moving on, here's one from YouTube. And I'm sad I did not get this person's YouTube name. This comes to us from The Poignancy, which is just an awesome name for an account. Will Flutterfire ever become an official Firebase SDK? And if so, when? Puff, I think this is your department.
I think so too, and it's a great question, so thank you, The Poignancy. Yeah, we at Firebase, we love Flutter, and for those of you who don't know, there might be a few Flutter developers out there. And Firebase is a set of backend services that allows your Flutter application code to talk directly to our server-side functionality. So with Firebase, right, you can add sign-in by just writing Flutter code instead of having to spin up your own OAuth server, right? Or directly talking to a database, right, without having to set up your own REST API. Yeah, and our team loves Flutter, right? Because we love being cross-platform, right? We're a cross-platform development platform. And yeah, Flutter is also cross-platform. So they go together like peanut butter and jelly or like Sparky and Dash, right? Now, it's a bit of a long answer. I think I have 3 parts for you. One of them is the first one, which is essentially the SDKs. And Firebase has a lot of platforms that we support, but our primary SDKs are often iOS, Android, and web. It's one of the reasons we love that Flutter added web support. And what we've done to make those available to your Flutter app is that we sort of take the official application or SDK, sorry, and we wrap that in some Flutter code to handle interrupt for you. Now that leaves the Flutter Fire library itself, and that library is indeed has been going through some changes. As Flutter has been adding functionality, platforms mostly, right? We also had to update that. So we've been seeing some breaking changes there. And those, have taken some iterations to get through. But I think we're now slowly stabilizing those. So we see more stable API releases coming there. If you find any issues, by the way, or if you see something that doesn't work the way you expect it to work, always report that on the open source repo on GitHub, because we might not know it if you don't tell us. So that's one. Second one is documentation. And we have a getting started guide for Flutter and Firebase in the Firebase documentation on firebase.google.com. But after that, the best documentation lives at, and now I need to always check because I have this tab open in Chrome all the time. It lives on firebase.flutter.dev. So I never have to type that one. But that's where you find great documentation that's really tailored to Flutter usage. So I highly recommend checking that out. One of the great things about that documentation is that it's also open source. So if you find a mistake in there, or if you think we could explain something better, that's great, because we're looking forward to either an issue report or a pull request. Third one is other themes, other materials that we create, like video content. And last year, you might have seen that we've been doing from the Firebase side more Firebase Flutter content. So we've done a few code labs, a walkthrough video for these. I've done a live coding talk, nerve-wracking, at the Firebase Summit. And then, let's see, Todd did a video, Todd Kerpelman, one of our developer advocates, and actually he's about to finish a series on using real-time database in Flutter application. I actually just realized that that might not be announced yet, so let's just keep it a secret between us, right? No, yeah, so clearly, right, we are working hard to support more of Flutter. Many Firebase team members love Flutter, probably as much as many developers out there. We're great fans, and we can't wait to bring more of Firebase to more of Flutter.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Bob. And it sounds like there's some opportunity, much like Flutter is open source pretty much completely. Same is true for a lot of Firebase stuff, like these plugins for Flutter Fire. People can get involved if they want to, right?
Exactly, yeah. All of this, most of our SDKs are developed in the open, right? So we're always looking for people to either contribute there or just tell us if something doesn't work, right? We test a lot, but we might not catch all bugs that you encounter. So.
Yeah, a great bug report can make a world of change. Awesome. Well, thank you, and thank you again. The poignancy. Hopefully, that was a poignant answer. The next question comes from Netlinks, and this looks like it might be one for Ian. With more than 8,200 open issues on GitHub, Flutter seems a bit understaffed. Are there any plans to improve the situation, or what are your priorities? Ian, as tech lead, you're sort of in charge of our processes. You want to talk a little bit about issues and how they're managed?
Yeah, sure. So we have, as Netlinks says, we have 8,000 or so open issues. But the important thing is that we are resolving issues about as fast as we're getting them. So, for example, last year we had about 15,000 issues filed in our GitHub repo, and we closed about 15,000 issues. So we're actually pretty happy with the rate at which we're fixing bugs and resolving bugs. The number of issues is more a marker of how many users we have, because the more users we have, the more bugs get filed. And the number of issues we're resolving is more a marker of how many people are contributing. And we have quite a few contributors. We have over 200 people who are officially part of the Flutter Hackers group on GitHub. About a quarter of those are part of the Google team. So most people who are contributing to Flutter are in fact not part of the Google Flutter team, but are part of the open source project. They might be from Microsoft or from Canonical or Nevercode, or be volunteers who are working on their spare time. So obviously different people have different amounts of time that they're spending contributing to the product, but hopefully we'll be able to get more issues resolved to make Netlinks happier.
Well, there you go. All right, again, thank you for that question, Netlinks. Looks like we have one from Miriam coming up. This is from Faylali. This came out on Twitter as well. When will Flutter Web drop the hash in the URL, and why does it exist? So that pound sign that you see at the end of the URLs.
That is an excellent question. Okay, so let's start with the why does it exist. So today we use something called the hash URL strategy, and that is something we initialize when we are initializing the web engine. So what that means is that when you have Flutter name routes, we're basically initializing those as part of the hash that's attached to the URL. But now, today, with the stable release, we have a way for you to customize that URL and drop the hash from the URL. That way you can make your URL any way that you want, configure it with any other sub-URLs you need to be able to deep link or share the URL with friends and family and users. But then also we have a plugin that somebody in the community has created, so thank you. It's called URL Strategy, and it basically does what the instructions we also have in our documentation do, but just in a very easier way. You just put it in your pub.dev, and then you're able to configure your URL and drop the hash.
Awesome. Thank you, Miriam. Yeah, I know we've gotten some questions on that before, so I'm glad it came up today. Let's see what else we've got. This one comes in from Silvio Plaus. Flutter is still having lots of compatibility issues with the new Mac's M1 architecture. Are you working on some solution, or should I buy an old Intel Mac? Eric, maybe this is a good one for you.
I guess I would start by maybe saying you don't need to buy a new computer. So I would encourage you to try again today. There's been a whole lot of improvements to the M1 support as part of the Flutter 2 release. I'd also start by saying that advancements to platforms like M1 on the Apple side, or things that come down from Android or other vendors, are things that we address immediately. So like we learn about the M1 the same time you did. And we ordered an M1 dev box the same day they were available, and we've been working on them since. We broke down the M1 work into sort of 3 buckets, one of which is, do apps run well on the M1? Do the tools that are used to develop apps run well on the M1? And the third bucket being, can we develop our own tools on the M1? And the first 2 buckets, as far as I know, everything should pretty much work. Certainly with the Flutter 2 that came out today. Certainly if you are hitting issues with the M1 or otherwise, we want to hear about it. As Ian alluded to, we get a lot of issues every day. We triage them, and we want to address them as soon as possible. So yeah, try again with Flutter 2. But I also would expect it to work well, and it's going to just continue to get better as we continue to make more code changes.
What was interesting with the M1 is that it was almost like a whole new platform for us, because we'd never done ARM as a host before. And so, we announced today web and desktop, but really Apple Silicon was kind of its own other platform that we had to support, which is harder to get big banner messages for. We now have support for the current Mac OS release, but it is still a significant amount of work.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of have to build that up from the ground level up, right? You got to first make sure the Dart and the VM and all of that's working, and then you got to make sure the embedder's working, and then just go up through the layers of Flutter from there, right?
Exactly.
Very much like you would end up doing for a new platform.
Yep.
Thanks, well, Sylvia. Hopefully that gives you a good bit of confidence about the M1 architecture. Thanks for the question. All right, next up, do the Flutter Dart teams ever plan to add official guidance for app architecture? Similar to Jetpack and Android. Ian, you might want to talk about this, and also sort of where we decide to offer guidance and where we don't. That's an interesting question too.
I'm laughing because you're throwing this to me as if you don't know the answer, but you and I have been talking about this for several weeks. Yeah, we have in fact just I think either today or very soon we'll be landing a new template into the Flutter master branch. And that template will be basically an answer to this question. It's, how do you create an app with all the best practices, state restoration, how do you have your app state, and so on. It's not the only answer to the question. The whole point of programming is there are many answers to these questions, and different apps have different needs. But we hope that this particular template will really help here. And we might create other templates in the future for different kinds of architectures. Maybe you'd rather use Redux instead of the state mechanism that we have in this template. So this didn't land today for Flutter 2, but it will hopefully be in the next stable release in a few months.
So yeah, I mean, these concerns show up for developer relations, my team all the time. It's like, where are we really being useful by saying to people, this is the well-lit path and we recommend it? And where would we be cutting off people from their own ideas that might in fact be better in the long run, right? We took a long time before we ever sort of anointed a state management approach as a good one for beginners. We settled on Provider, which is a great package from Remy. But because we didn't want to sort of solve that problem in a way that would stop other people from solving it in ways that might be better. Awesome. Okay, let's see what we've got coming in on the chat. This is from Khaled Ahmed. Thank you, Khaled. Will null safety break existing apps? Is there some stuff that needs to be migrated? Who might want to take that one? Eric, do you want to take a stab at it? You certainly know a lot about null safety.
Yeah, I think that probably Ian or I could answer this. The idea is that you should be able to migrate. Like null safety was designed to be an upgrade. There's even a tool that you can use. I believe it's called Dart Fix, and you can run it on your code base, and it will help you go through changing to your code to make it null aware. You might have more to say.
Dart Migrate, I believe, is a tool. But yeah, it'll give you suggestions. If you look earlier in the keynote, we have a whole section that talks about how it works. The idea is it should not be breaking. You really would like your dependencies to be migrated first. Your life will be harder if you migrate before your dependencies migrate. It's possible, but it'll be less effective. So if you have a package that you're using that isn't migrated yet, go ask the developer of that package to migrate. But otherwise, you should be good to go. And yeah, it should not be particularly breaking. There's no, as was mentioned in the keynote, this is why we are not calling this release Dart 3. It's Dart 2 because it is in fact backwards compatible with null safe Dart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and it's just like any other language feature. It's in the pub spec. You declare which Dart language version you want to roll with. And so if you're Dart 2.12.0 or higher, then you're opting in. We just went through this process for our samples in the Flutter samples repo. And we did it just as Ian was just describing. Sort of, we looked at our samples and how many had a dozen dependencies and how many had 0 dependencies. We just sorted them in a spreadsheet by that and started at the top and went down from there. And so we're actually literally right now landing those in the Flutter samples repo now that the release has gone out.
The other good thing about the way we deployed null safety is you can literally compile an app that has non-null safe code and null safe code simultaneously. And the compiler will use null safety optimizations and the ability to know what the types are when it's compiling the null safe code. And then when it has a boundary to non-null safe code, it will add null checks for you. We call this non-sound null safety, if I remember correctly. And so you can run your app in mixed mode, essentially, with both types of code in there, and that should work.
Yeah, I know the Dart team is very specific about the sound null safety is the particular type that Dart offers, which has some advantages because once you have that for all your code, there are a lot of checks you don't need to make anymore, and it can make your code a little bit faster and tighter. I imagine there'll be a lot more detail on that in Leaf's talk later today. So folks interested in null safety, you're going to want to stay on the line for that one. But thanks. Let's see, we've got another live question. This one comes from Ankit Kumar. Is Flutter good for 3D rendering? That's an interesting question. Puff looks like he's interested in it. I don't know, Eric or Miriam or Ian, who'd be interested in that one?
I can take it. I mean, we've built Flutter as a 2D system. That said, lots of people have done 3D with it. The APIs that we provide are for drawing 2D objects on a screen, as you would use for a typical mobile app. But the transforms that we use do support 3D. So people have done interesting, 2.5D or 3D sort of setups. Also, Flutter the Flutter content itself can embed other textures, other OpenGL textures. So you could write some OpenGL code to write some 3D and then embed the resulting OpenGL texture in the rest of your Flutter app. And we've seen folks do that. In fact, I think even in the keynote, there was this mention of the Wallace and Gromit app at the end. And that has both 2D and 3D in it. I think some of the 3D parts are done in Unity. I'd have to go look and learn more. But mashing the two together is possible. But again, the bulk of Flutter is designed around a 2D experience.
I believe Grant Skinner, who everybody saw in the keynote doing some wonderful things with Flutter Folio, has also done some vignettes for Flutter that had, some of them had some 3D elements just spicing up and adding some interesting design aspects to what would otherwise be 2D app UI. And I believe you can find those on G. Skinner's site. So those are worth checking out as well. He did some wonderful things there. His team, rather. Awesome. Let's try another live question. This is from Blessin George Varghese or Varghese. What about Flutter for desktop? Ian, maybe, do you want to talk a little bit about where we are on desktop?
Yeah, we have Flutter for desktop is available now in the stable channel, although we don't consider it to be fully stable yet. We support Mac OS, we support Windows, and we support Linux currently. What more is there to say? We don't support necessarily all the features you might want. For example, we don't yet have support for multi-window, although that is coming. We have some efforts going there. But support for your basic one-window app is pretty solid. I've done a bunch of them myself. There's an app I wrote for solving Sudokus that I run regularly on my Mac, and it works great.
Yeah, I would say just a little bit more. Like one of the things I love about Flutter Desktop, and particularly love about it now being available in the stable channel, is it's just so nice for development. Like it's just so, you just turn it on and then you just Flutter run and just boom, it's right there. And it's great for that sort of workflow. So yeah, try it, check it out, and send some feedback. Oh, I guess one other thing I would say is that it's been amazing to me the overlap between Flutter Web and Flutter Desktop. We sort of think about the desktop work in sort of splitting into two camps. One is like, how do you teach Flutter about what a mouse and keyboard are? And what a mouse and keyboard are, like we had to do that for the web, because the web has so much sort of desktop-iness in it in parts. But then there's also the other part, which is like, well, how do you teach the Flutter engine to run on a really big phone that's plugged into the wall? And that it comes in Mac, Linux, and Windows flavors. And that sort of engine level work is sort of what Ian was alluding to. Like we have an engine for Mac, we have an engine compiled for Linux, and we have an engine compiled. And that's maybe less far along than the like, can you use a mouse and keyboard with Flutter? Which you can, because we put it on the web now. So
Yeah.
hope that helps.
I would add to Eric exactly what you said. A lot of what we needed to do to make web stable was to have those desktop form factors supported. Being able to use your trackpad, your scroll wheel, your keyboard to interact with your web app on desktop browsers. But I'd also look at G. Skinner's Flutter Folio, and you can kind of see how you can build mobile, web, and desktop app across the board, and how those features go across those three different platforms and where we use each of them.
It's actually interesting to look at why we haven't yet labeled desktop as stable. And two of the big reasons are we don't have good testing on our own side to make sure that we don't regress desktop when we add new features. And that might not matter so much to someone writing a desktop app, but it matters a lot to us because we want to make sure that when we write new code for desktop, we don't break things that are already working. The other big thing that we don't have solid support yet is accessibility. And we have a plan for that. We're working on that. We have code being developed for that. But it wasn't ready for today, so that's why we don't see that as a stable product. It's still a beta level product. But again, if you have an app that you don't need accessibility support for, maybe you're running it on some sort of kiosk or something like that, then that may be less important to you. But we consider those two features in particular to be really critical before we're willing to put the label stable on anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility to make sure you're not breaking 6 platforms as opposed to not breaking 3 platforms, right? One thing I wanted to make sure folks are clear on, you mentioned that desktop support, the beta snapshot of desktop is currently available in the Flutter 2 stable channel release. Is that right?
I believe that is accurate.
Okay. And so that's so people can just have an easier time trying out desktop support as it exists now, right from there, the same version of the SDK they currently have installed, right?
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, so if you want the latest of desktop, it's better to use it on beta because that's where the updates will be. But you're just going to get a snapshot of what it is today on stable.
So if you have an existing app or you just kind of want to see what it looks like on desktop, sounds like you can do that right from the stable channel. But the latest and greatest would be either on dev or on beta.
And there's something really magical about having written an app for, say, Android, and then just running it on your Mac or running it on your Linux box. And it just works. And it's a very weird experience to have done that. I haven't experienced that before. With the web, you kind of have that when you write your web app and it works in one browser and it works on a different browser on your laptop and a different browser on your phone. But it's really kind of a magical experience to have that with a native app.
Absolutely. So thanks. Well, hopefully that was a lot of detail for you. Blessing George Varghese about Flutter on desktop. Let's take another live question. This is from Shekhar Shashank. What is the best way to learn state management packages like RiverPod? It's sort of an interesting question about how to approach. Maybe that's a dev. Would anybody be offended if I took that one? Even though I'm the host, I'm not really supposed to answer questions. Is that okay?
Please, I was hoping you would take this one.
All right, sure. Fire away. Yeah, this is my jam. One of the, I would say, the best way to learn anything with Flutter is to just start coding. That's how I've done most of my learning with Flutter. One of the nice things about Flutter being entirely open source is that when you do run into a crash or something like that, you can go really far down into open source code before anything would stop you. This is how I learned most of the Flutter SDK and RiverPod, which is made by Remy. He also very good about documenting his code. So if you ever run into any issues while you're playing around with it or just having some fun, you can go straight into the source and see his Dart doc comments and see how everything works. Also, I would say one of the wonderful things about Flutter is that we have a global developer community who are fun and energetic and welcoming. Not only are they happy to answer questions generally on sites like Stack Overflow and stuff like that, but a lot of them are out there on YouTube right now putting out videos, putting out blog posts and stuff like that. RiverPod has attracted a bunch of users, and so you can find a lot of resources from people who are a few steps further down the road on their learning journey with that particular package than you are. And they've turned around and offered help to you along your way. So if the best way, just do a search on YouTube, do a search on blogging platform of your choice, and odds are you're going to find some folks who have already tried whatever it is that you're interested in learning and have left some breadcrumbs for you on your own journey. All right. Let's see. I think we got, let's go back to some of the questions we got earlier on Twitter and YouTube. This is one, this is clearly a Miriam question. What about SEO in Flutter Web? Is it supported? If yes, let us know. Thanks. What do you think, Miriam?
I had a feeling this question was coming. Flutter started as a fork of Chrome. And so indexability has always been on our mind. It's just with this release specifically, we really optimized for web applications and focused on customers, our early adopters that were already building applications with the web. And so that being said, although indexability is something we're looking into, it is a lot of work to get supported. And so if you are looking for building very document-centric, very text-heavy, and just websites that need that SEO support, Flutter might not be the right choice for you currently. We do have ways that you can access the browser and DOM because we do use the web platform, and that is what Flutter Web is built on. So there might be ways that you can find to embed those APIs and the meta tags that you might need for SEO using things like platform views. But as of now, we are looking into it, and we would love to understand what exactly your use cases are, how you use SEO today, so file issues on GitHub, so we can learn more. But it is on our roadmap. It is something we'll look into. But as of today, we're best for web applications.
So thank you, Miriam. And just to echo what you said there at the end, filing issues, uploading issues, and adding comments and context to issues, that's one of the best ways for developers to sort of steer the SDK and provide their input. Do I have that right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of, oh, sorry, Ian.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, a lot of what we've built for Flutter Web is from hearing what our customers needed at the time that they were building with beta and the tech preview. So the best way to shape our future stable releases is to tell us what we can work on.
Ian, did you have anything to add there, or is Miriam pretty much got it?
No, that was pretty much it. We very much use the issues as a way to prioritize. We look specifically around thumbs up on issues because GitHub makes it really easy to sort by thumbs up on the first issue, first comment in an issue. So yeah, definitely thumb up issues that you like, file issues if you can't find one. That is the best way to help us.
Yeah. I don't know that it's, I was just gonna say, I don't know that it's commonly understood how open Flutter is, because I just don't, not all projects are run this way, but like all of our docs are public. All of our issues are public. Basically, whenever we do anything, we do it in the public. And so, yes, there may be a lot of issues to look through, and to find the issue that you want. But it's all done in the public. And so, either you can watch us do it, or you can contribute and join forces and help us make it better.
Yeah, I've come from a long history of open source and open standards, and so I've been trying really hard to push that culture into the Flutter project. I think pretty successfully. We have, an open Discord where all of our conversations happen. We have open GitHub issues where all our issues happen. Our project planning happens in Google GitHub project. All our design docs are in public Google Docs. So yeah, we are very much an open project, and if you're interested in contributing, we have a contributing guide on GitHub. Check it out. Follow the links.
Thank you. So hopefully that gets a good answer for search engine optimization there, and a little bit on contributed. Let's take another one from YouTube. When will the problem of janky animations on the first opening of an app be resolved, especially with Metal? Eric, I think I've seen you doing a little talk on, speaking of GitHub issues, doing some stuff on this. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, this has been a popular topic, particularly the last few weeks. And I wrote a long post on Reddit. I'm actually in the middle of working on a longer blog post. I guess I would open by saying performance is something that is like a grounding principle of Flutter. When we first talked about the project 5+ years ago, you heard us talk first about performance. When you heard us talk about the pillars of the things that we're trying to accomplish, performance is, the number one. And that's not just, that's not just words. Like, we back that up by, every commit that's ever checked in is compared against all sorts of performance tests across the board, across all the platforms. Performance is something that we strive for, we drive towards every day. Specifically regarding to jank and first run animations, that's an issue that we have been aware of for a while, and particularly on iOS, it did get worse in some scenarios within the last year with the migration from OpenGL to Metal, where we're no longer able to cache the shaders, which are the little programs that you have to run on the GPU to actually produce the pixels. We're no longer able to cache the shaders between runs as well as we were before. So the short and the long of it is we're aware that there are issues here, and we are hard at work on it. Lots of people working on this problem. Ian's working on this problem. And by this problem, I mean the general problem of performance and how do we make it better all the time. We think we're doing pretty well, and we can always do better.
Yeah, around what I've been calling the early onset jank issues, that's very much something I'm focused on right now. If you look at GitHub, project 188, I remember the number by heart because I open it so often. That's where I've been tracking all the bugs about this. The best thing you can do, to echo what we just said in the last question, the best thing you can do to help us here, if you are seeing jank at the start of your application, please file a bug with code that reproduces the problem, include a video showing the jank, and include a timeline trace showing what your app is actually doing during that video. That is by far the most helpful thing you can do, because then we can study that particular case of jank. They are not all caused by the same problem. Even if they're caused by shaders, they're not necessarily caused by the same shaders. We have some examples of early onset jank that are caused by one particularly pathological shader case. We have another example that's, we happen to specialize the shader based on the rounded rect radius. And so every frame during the animation where you're animating the rounded rect radius, we have to compile a new shader. And so those different bugs will be solved with different problems. One of them presumably will be solved by just not specializing the shader based on the rounded rect radius. And the other one might be solved by fixing the code we're writing for that particular shader. But we won't know what your specific jank problem is unless you file a bug with code that we can look at.
Yeah, I mean, performance is sort of, I would say it's a multivariable equation, but that's not giving it justice, right? Like there's so many variables that go into that and so many special cases. So again, this is absolutely an area where we can use some great help from our community. Awesome. Let's see, I think we have another question relating to Flutter Web. How does Google plan to use Flutter Web internally? Eric, you speak for the team a lot internally, talking to other groups. Do you want to take this one?
So I can't speak to other teams' plans per se, but I can say that there are a number of teams who are experimenting with Flutter Web today. Flutter Web just came to the stable channel today, and similarly, we've been giving similar guidance to internal teams that we're still working on things. So there's nothing to announce today, but I do expect to see more usage of Flutter Web. I mean, Google engineers have similar constraints to any engineers, listening, right? We still have to write for lots of screens. And I think, I'm working on this project because I believe that it's a better way to develop when we write our code once and then we get to deploy it lots of places. And so I suspect that we have seen a lot of Google teams adopt that strategy already with Flutter, and I expect that we will see even more as Flutter goes to more places.
We've also seen Flutter for Web being used internally for internal tools, where there isn't necessarily a big team behind the tool and they need to create something that is useful and productive quickly. And so, for example, just on the Flutter team, for example, we use Flutter Web for some of our internal tools for migrating the public Flutter code into our internal repository for teams like GPay and other teams to use. And the tool that does that is itself written in Flutter.
We also, to add to Ian, we also use Dart DevTools is built in Flutter Web. So that's a great example, and we're hoping to showcase that as a way of using Google technology both internally and externally, because that same tool is available internally as well.
I actually used Flutter for Web to build an internal tool myself. Now that I'm a manager, I made a little tool to help people get GitHub searches to see what pull requests they've done over the course of 6 months or so. And Puff, this may be interesting to you. I actually deployed it to Firebase hosting, and the new thing that you all have that puts like automatic GitHub actions into your project took like 5 minutes for me to get like from my laptop up online at a web.app domain. So I don't know who works on that, but give them 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah, this is definitely awesome. Definitely one of the popular features we've released last year, right? It's that you can, from a GitHub action, automatically create a URL in Firebase hosting, a preview URL or a live URL. That's really awesome. We see lots of uptake of that, yeah. And it merges really well with Flutter Web, of course.
Awesome. Okay, let's take another question. This is from FluDev, perhaps short for Flutter Dev. Can we do mediation with AdMob in Flutter? If yes, then how will it be implemented? And I think I just talked myself into answering your question again. Does anybody else want to cover this? Because I'm the weird oddball former ads person on the call. Maybe? Okay. Sure. Yeah, a little bit of personal history. I came from ads dev role, mobile ads dev role. How I ended up on the Flutter team because I worked on the AdMob plugin for Flutter. So I got hooked on it. So yeah, as you saw, we had a wonderful announcement about the Google Mobile Ads plugin for Flutter today. Mediation is not in its list of supported features. I just want to be very clear about that. Because the plugin uses the same native SDKs under the hood as you would use on any other Flutter or any other Android or iOS app, mediation is in there, and you could, in theory, set up an ad unit and try to take advantage of it by bundling in the right native SDK and adapter. I should mention, by the way, for those of you unfamiliar with mediation, it's a feature where the Google Mobile Ads SDK can load and display ads from another ad network's SDK, like the Audience Network or MoPub or another one. But it's not officially supported. And the reason it's not officially supported has to do with testing. One of the reasons that we're being taking so much care in putting out the Google Mobile Ads plugin is that if you're going to put out something relating to monetization, it has to be right. It has to be tested and 100%. You're completely confident that it's right because it's related to somebody's livelihood, right? Like if I have a bug in one of my apps, it crashes and somebody's sad for a minute. If you have a bug in your ads SDK, it could mean that somebody's business is threatened, or somebody can't keep the lights on in their office. That's a very big responsibility, and that's why so much testing and so much cooperation with the ads team has gone into the current release of the mobile ads plugin, and that's what they're going to do with mediation before saying that it too is fully supported and ready for production. So it is on the roadmap, but I wouldn't try it just yet. That's my answer there. All right, let's take another one. This one comes from Sanath Kumaryu. When will Dart support WebAssembly? Ian, I'm thinking maybe this might be a good one for you.
Yeah, so this could mean a number of different things. We actually use WebAssembly today as part of Flutter for Web. And maybe Miriam can talk more about this in a minute. But basically, we have two other parts of WebAssembly that could be relevant for Dart. One of them is whether you could compile Dart itself to WebAssembly, and the other one is whether you could take code already compiled to WebAssembly and link to it from Dart. So for the second one, linking to WebAssembly code from Dart, I believe there's a package that already exists that uses Dart FFI to load up a WASM runtime and therefore let you connect to WASM code. That's not the most convenient way of doing it, but it sort of works today. The other option, or the other way of using WebAssembly with Dart would be to compile Dart itself to WebAssembly. That is not possible today. That's in the required features in WebAssembly that aren't really mature yet, like WebAssembly garbage collection, WebAssembly threading, and so forth. These are things that we're very interested in. I think WebAssembly has the potential to become really a uniform language interrupt technology in a few years. And so I'm really hoping that we can adopt that in Dart as well. But we're not there yet. And it will take some time, I think, to get there. Miriam, do you want to add something about how we do WebAssembly with CanvasKit?
Yeah, so today we have two renderers for Flutter Web. We have our default, or what used to be our default HTML render, where we use HTML and DOM backend in our web engine to render your application on the web. But we have been experimenting with CanvasKit, and today we have stabilized it so that you can use CanvasKit, which uses WebAssembly and WebGL to render your app as a Skia in the browser. And so with those two different renderers, we also have something called Auto, and that's what we set all Flutter web apps to run by default. And Auto basically means that we use CanvasKit on desktop browsers, and we use HTML renderer on mobile browsers, just to optimize for the benefits and the strengths of both.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miriam. Let's see. Let's take some live questions. We have about 15 minutes left, I think, in our block. We are still taking live questions from the chat and on Twitter using the #Flutter hashtag. I always like to go back to Twitter, by the way, and see if I can answer some of the ones that we weren't able to get to live. So if we don't get to your question here, hopefully we'll have some time to come back and answer it after the fact. But let's take a live question. This is from BJ Kumar. One word about Flutter Web in comparison to React and Angular. Let's see, Miriam or Ian, what do you think about that? What are some of the differences between those three things?
Okay, And did you want to take it, or or Eric? I feel like Eric has something to say.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that like Flutter Web, like we just draw to a canvas. So we really treat it like we have access to the CPU or the GPU like we do on a native platform, which is I think different from how I see Angular and React working. But that's the first thing that jumps out to me.
Yeah,
I always feel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You got it.
I was going to say, I always feel reluctance to compare Flutter to other technologies because we all have valid use cases. Like all the different technologies have valid use cases, and I don't really want to speak for React and say, oh, React is good at this, but is not good at that. That's really up to React. We are very happy to coexist with these other technologies, and we hope that the community as a whole can write guides that say, here's when Flutter is good, here's when Flutter for Web is good, here's when React is good, and so on.
Yeah, I was going to answer the same way as you, Ian. I don't know if anyone caught Dion at the keynote, but I think he put it really well that the web platform has opened it up to so many frameworks, and Flutter is just another one that is taking advantage of all that the web has to offer. And so we just want to see what you build with it, and we're going to try to suit it best for the things that you want to build with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ian and Mary. Let's go to another live question. This comes from MDPE _IR. I am on the beta channel right now. Should I go to stable channel? I think the gag here is that the beta channel just became the stable channel earlier this morning. Do I have that correct?
That is right. It's really hard for me to answer that question because I usually spend most of my time on tip of tree on all the projects I use.
That was a glorious question.
Yeah, I didn't know we needed to listen to that one. Oh man, so much more stuff happened since we last left. And like now, I don't even remember any of it. But I tweeted about it, so I could come back and get my memory better. So they said they're aware of the iOS jank issue and they're working on it. I was kind of happy to hear that a bit, but like the way Eric kind of answered it, I thought he was going to go with like, he gave a really basic answer that like didn't say. And I'm like, oh no, I'm like, they're going to pretend like this isn't really a problem. But then Ian came through a bit.
I found a tweet about the jank issue by a GD. Maybe I can send it in the chat.
Yes,
I will
send
try.
it to me.
I sent it in the chat. It seems like it's working. Where you can see like the board, what they're working on and what it's, so you can pretty much see and follow the issue. It seems pretty nice that they are actually putting more time and effort into this one now.
Send it to me on Telegram because I can't. It doesn't let me copy it in thing.
Send.
Let's see. Oh, so yeah, this is the whole for all the jank issues, right?
Yeah.
For early onset jank, and they have a bunch of tasks that they're apparently working on. Yeah, that's sweet. So it looks like it might potentially get solved at some point, or they're at least actually actively working on it. Because I remember when Eric answered the thing in on Reddit, he was kind of like, "Oh, we're like working on it," but he didn't give a clear like path forward. And like with this, we could actually see it stuff getting done.
Okay, I hide my volume a bit more again. Is this better?
I don't know. It sounds good to me.
We get a lot of questions about the Take Lead video.
Yeah, I mean he is pretty popular, and that they blew up.
Yeah.
But what you guys?
But I think I think most of us have watched that video. I have answered that question earlier in this section of this stream, but either way, like, I don't have anything against the guy. He's made a great video and he's bringing this topic up. Like, this was a bit down where they didn't really talk about this issue like a lot, but after that video it's really gotten to the surface a bit more. So yeah, like he explained it in a pretty poor way or poor manner, but it got the point through.
Oh, hold on.
has a lot of thumbs up. This makes me wish Bob were here. But Ian or Eric, you might have a take on this, Miriam as well.
So Bob already covered it in the keynotes. We are actively trying to find a good way to do this. We want to be really careful in how we do this. We don't want to add a syntax that works today but doesn't work in 6 months' time, doesn't work in 2 years. And we don't want to keep adding new syntaxes every few months or every few years just to end up with a lot of kind of obsolete language features that aren't used by anyone. So we're looking at metaprogramming. We're looking at ways that we can really handle a large number of use cases that exist today and hopefully in an extensible fashion.
Yeah, so they're saying the same thing that they,
I mean, that's good that they're at least like, he said actively. I don't really know about even on the issue 314 or whatever.
It's the meta issue.
But I mean, that'd be pretty awesome. I feel like that's the, I don't know, they're bringing like everything that you want to Flutter and Dart. I feel like they got to bring this one into.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like the, what's the saying? The cherry on top. Every Dart will do everything. It'll just be. What do you? All right, I got a question for you. What do you think about the longevity of Dart? Because I saw a question earlier that made me think, like, where do you think Flutter would be 10 years from now?
Yeah. So it's really hard to say. Like 5 years ago, like nobody was developing in Flutter at all, and nobody didn't really care about it either. And like now, it's becoming a really huge thing. So like 5 years from now, we don't really know. 10 years from now, we certainly don't know. But like so far, it has been like growing super quickly. So I don't see it stopping anytime soon, at least. And like just because it's not in the radar or like the biggest topic in 10 years, it doesn't make it like invalid anymore. People will still use it. It will still be used by companies, etc. So it's just maybe that it won't be the like biggest thing at that moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the main thing is like new technology comes out every year. You never really know what's going to happen. But having said that, I think the way Flutter's like positioning itself, like they're like not like very tied to one thing. Like let's say, I don't know, Kotlin at the beginning was tied to Android. Now I think they have like Kotlin or whatever, so maybe they're expanding. But like Flutter's like, yo, we'll do anything, and like we'll make it good. So it makes me think that they have pretty good longevity, because like let's say, I don't know, some new devices come out using some completely different processor. Like if you're a Kotlin developer, you're like, oh crap, like what do I do? Because you got to figure out a way, like maybe you were only for Android, so you got to figure out a different solution. But for Flutter, they just add it to their stuff, and it should be fine. But
how do you feel about them moving most of the things to stable now, by the way? You were working mostly in stable, right?
Yeah, I think I really liked that, but it was a bit confusing with the whole desktop.
Yeah, I don't really know what actually moved to stable, so I will probably have to check that later.
So I think technically they said, so web is stable, like by what we know stable means, and then desktop is on the stable channel, but it is an early access release. Actually, I had a screenshot of it that like might explain it. Oh, come on, get up there.
That's actually one of my favorite things I always notice about using something like
this one. They were like, yeah, Flutter 2, macOS, Windows, Linux.
Under early release flag, yeah, so you'll probably have to write it in the terminal to just enable that flag or something.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can still use it in the stable channel, but it's technically not stable condition. But as they also mentioned that like they think it works well enough to put it into the stable channel in the first place. So,
hey, Code Magic wrote a tweet of our stream.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh man, we made it.
We're popular.
Yeah. Wait. Wow, that was awesome.
Let's see. I had some more questions, but they used like so many news that I forgot a lot about it.
I was looking through. The only way I could keep up is by looking through.
Yeah, I just looking through all of my tweets. Have you, by the way, tried out any of your apps while they talked or anything like that?
Nah, I've been getting bombarded on this one, and like my laptop fans are already spinning with the stream with the watching it and everything. I'm like, all right. One thing I did notice, they said their SEO is on their roadmap.
Yeah.
So from what I thought before, I thought that SEO is just never going to be a thing for like Flutter. I thought it was just going to be PWA and that's all you got. Like that's as good as it's going to get. But the fact that they have it on their radar, that's like really nice to hear. That potentially in the long term, it will be a thing. And then you could code literally every type of website. Because now, if you want a portfolio site, I don't know if it really makes sense, but yeah, I'm happy we got back on. This question is not the best one. What's a good IDE for Flutter? But I remember before we even started the stream, you were hoping for native ads, and they actually did bring that up.
Yeah, like that one is probably the one I'm most excited about. Like I've been working on a lot on the master channel of Flutter, lately more on the dev channel, but so like working on the different platforms and web, I've already done it. So it was a nice feeling that it's unstable, but like the most one that I was excited about like is the native ads SDK. Like I remember the first app I created. It was a very bad app, but I really wanted to have like that support of ads in that list of like plants or whatever I had in that app. And like nobody had any kind of like news about it or any kind of implementation for that. So you just had that banner support of ads, like either a full screen ads popping up or a banner, which just looked really, really ugly in an app. So like this one is actually huge, and I think a lot of people will utilize it.
I mean, I haven't used apps that much. I mean, ads that much, but whenever I do need to, like that'd be pretty awesome to have that capability, like supported by Flutter itself. So they said it wasn't. You were talking about how like you hope it's supported in the SDK itself, but I mean, a Flutter supported plugin is just as good. I feel like, right?
Oh, Remy also posted some news. He's introducing a state inspector dev tool for provider and Riverpod, so you can actually inspect the state of the code. That's pretty nice actually.
Amazing. How they gotta chill out with all these news. I can't keep up. I have the 3 pulled up right here.
Oh, and it makes it. Oh, that's really sweet. It's really close to how React does it as well, where you can just edit the state and it will update both in the app and like this is really nice. I feel like that is one thing that has been lacking, because coming from like building React websites before, like these things are really cool.
That's going to be super useful because now you can test your code like really quickly and update whatever you need to put in there.
First I read it like, was it only for Riverpod, because that was the only one that I saw, and then I saw provider as well, so this is probably going to be used by a lot of people.
Yeah, and Remy is like definitely one of the top like Flutter people outside of Google. He just, I don't get how he like does all this. It's amazing.
Indeed.
I don't even understand half the things he does. I just use it happily. I'm like, all right, it works nice. What else they got announced? Oh, I was really a big fan of the no hashtag in the Flutter web URL anymore, because that one was annoying me a lot. I remember spending a good chunk of time trying to remove that hashtag and then realizing it it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Maybe we can check, see if do anyone have any questions, by the way?
Sure, yeah. Hit us with some questions.
Hey, Maz. Did I say that name correctly?
I hope so.
I probably did.
Oh, what's this? What's happening?
I'm John, a developer relations engineer on the Flutter team, and joining me today is someone who also works on Flutter, Miriam. Hi, Miriam.
Hi, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Miriam, a product manager for Flutter.
So, Miriam, you're actually the product manager for Flutter on the web, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and work with you, John, to get a Flutter app running in a web browser and deploy as a progressive web app.
Me too. Actually, before we dive in, Miriam, can you explain why we added web support to Flutter?
Sure. As some of you may know, Flutter started as a UI framework for building beautiful iOS and Android mobile apps, like the ones you see here. But our vision is to provide a portable framework that helps developers build beautiful, natively compiled applications for any platform. And since the web already runs on any device, targeting the web felt like a natural next step for Flutter to achieve our goal, enabling you to build high-quality, high-performance experiences across multiple platforms. So, with today's release of Flutter 2.0, we now have production quality support for the web on the stable channel, which means you can build apps for iOS, Android, and the browser with the same code base.
Super exciting. So now I can run Flutter apps natively on my phone and now in a browser.
Yes, and emphasis on apps. While you can do a lot on the web, Flutter's initial stable release is best fit for building web applications, not static content websites.
Okay, so maybe I should keep my landing page for my site in HTML if I want that to play nicely with search engines, for example.
Exactly. We see Flutter being a great fit for apps that can be installable progressive web apps, a rich interactive single page app, or even an existing Flutter mobile app. But John, what web app should we build today?
I've been updating the Dashcast app, which is a podcast app. So first, let's walk through some of the features on the iPhone. So this page loads podcasts using HTTP and JSON. It also uses this custom font here using the Google Fonts package. It, as you can see, uses material design components like ink splashes right here, animations. And if I go to a podcast, say this one, you can see I'm using the URL launcher plugin to open links using plugins which operate on the host platform, either Android or iOS.
That's pretty cool. And I'm not just saying that because I like the name of it. It would be awesome if I could use that on my laptop. I think having it run in the browser would actually let me use it on any device.
Yeah, that sounds great. So what do I need to do?
So with the stable release, the web is just another device target now for Flutter. So like you see iPhone or Android listed as devices in your IDE, you should also now see Chrome or Edge if you're on Windows. So all you have to do is run Flutter create, and that's going to generate the web directory. Then select Chrome as the device, and then hit run.
Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So I'll turn it here.
This is some basic stuff. So I feel like, I mean, they're just telling us how to use the Flutter one. It's the Flutter web in stable, which is, I mean, you just use it like you would do a normal app.
Make a 5 days, 5 app series. Yeah, Tadas, you should do that.
No, you got it. Have you seen I wanted to do a 10 Flutter apps in 10 hours live stream.
Yeah, I want to do the same, but no.
Like I'm like, damn, I don't even have like, I don't know how I could do that. But like, I mean, they would be simple apps. So am I planning on doing it? But maybe I'll do like 8 apps in 8 hours.
Yeah. Like, I don't know about you, but I usually get a lot of questions about like creating big apps and creating a series of apps.
Mhm.
A lot of the times it doesn't really work making series on YouTube. Like a lot of time is putting into the series, but most of the people only watch the first episode or the first video. Then you don't really get that much engagement. So that's probably the biggest reason why a lot of people don't actually create series. Like they have a huge worth for the content that they provide, but they don't really give anything back, which is hard to like justify for a content creator.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's you see the same problem. I think it might be okay long term because like more people would start watching at least the first episode will get a lot more views in long term. But yeah, it's tough. I think maybe the best way to approach a series type of thing is by like making each video like pretending it's not a series and like just building up on an app with like a new topic for each part of the app.
Yeah.
And then it kind of seems like the video could stand on its own, but in the end you build a whole product. But that's really hard and takes so much planning. So you're kind of that's tough. We will purchase. So like I think that's the next point. I think building full apps would be a pretty good course to make.
Yeah.
Because that's when you make it a course, people seem to watch through the whole thing and like it's kind of becomes a lot more worth it.
Yeah.
I might have plans for something like that in the future. We'll see.
Maybe we can do a co-op course, like a course together. I don't know how that would work, but maybe that's something we can do.
All right, I'll plan it and then you make it.
Oh no!
Well, it's a good deal, I promise. I'll give you 40%.
Oh god damn it!
We have seen Flutter developers showing that people created so many applications and sent to us apps with animations. Can you pick any of it and create any of us for better animation understanding? So, my animations, I'm not great with design. That's my probably biggest weakness with Flutter and kind of anything is I'm not the best designer. But animations and designing was going to be one of my big focuses for this year. I do have some recommendations for who you could watch for animations. But Robert, you got any stuff?
Like my weak point is probably animations. I can create quite nice designs. I'm working quite a lot in the current company I'm working at with designs as well. But like the design or the animations, I'm not really that great at, and it's something that I want to improve on. But I feel like, yeah, there are a lot of good content out there about animations, and I feel like probably the best content about any kind of UI and animations, to me at least, is probably like super declarative. And for those that do not know, like way back in the beginning of when Flutter was like in beta, he created some really good designs and animations and what's then like promoted to the working in the Flutter team. And he now has his own channel again where he create like super nice apps or designs. And they're like really long, so you can really learn a lot from them.
So yeah, I'm pretty weak in animations as well. But one person that I know makes some good animations is, if you guys know Fun with Flutter on YouTube. He is really good with animations, and he's taught me a couple of things about it. So I would definitely give him a look. And let's see, we might have some people join in on this stream and see what their opinions about Flutter are. So these, I invited one person. I think he's pretty new to Flutter. So we'll see what he thinks about all these updates. We'll see if he joins.
And now that I've made that change.
And then I wanted to take a look at the Flutter Engage schedule. Like what's going on right now and what's going to happen. View event schedule. There we go. All right. And I think this looks like some really basic setting up Flutter web. And
yeah, I think they will just like show examples of all of the different parts.
So this first session is moving your mobile app to a web app, and it seems like they're showing how to be responsive and stuff like that, which is great and definitely useful, but it's not that interesting. Migrating a package to null safety, that's also pretty. I mean, I have a video about this stuff. I know Robert has a video, I think, about responsiveness. Don't you have one?
I will have one on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And we both have videos about null safety, so you could take a look at that. Little things, becoming the mystical designer developer. Flutter is
that one I actually want to see, but I will probably watch that one tomorrow.
What's that? Supports immediate iteration through hot reload.
I don't know. It's probably very basic, but I still want to watch it.
Yeah. So he says the basics of good app design and how they translate to Flutter widgets. And also it's by Philip, who's
that's
he's
probably
one
the
of my
main reason. I really enjoy watching his videos and streams.
And then using ads at the end. So nothing too interesting that you could watch during this, but Philip was one of my favorite like Flutter developers or whatever. I feel like every lesson he brings up just teaches me so much. We are all bad at animations. Yeah. There's a couple packages for animations though. If someone mentioned Rive, but then if you want to take a look at the channel that I said for fun with Flutter, you can see he's got some really good designs and videos about animations, and I think he also has a course that I think I remember I got a referral link for, but I don't remember anymore. I'll take a look, but he has a whole Rive course and stuff like this. So if you want to learn good animations, definitely check him out.
We should learn from him and learn design or animations.
I am trying to learn from him, but I keep postponing it a bit.
Yeah, same.
All right, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the chat. Like Paul Vickers said, the problem I see with the series on YouTube is they are not regular enough, and sometimes run over a year, and sometimes not even finished. Yeah, so that's the reason I think they don't get finished is because they're so like tough to make and they stop getting views, and then you're working so hard on creating a good YouTube series, and then nobody watches it, and then you kind of just lose motivation, and it's tough.
Yeah, but it's like watching. Rizocoder, I think, made a really long Flutter firebase DDD course on YouTube, and he's getting tons of views from it. He's quite large, so that explains a lot of it as well. But if you just look at the translations from his videos, going from the first one getting 56,000 views, and in the middle it's 4,000 and 2,000, and then to the latest one it's 1.9 thousand. So comparing it to his first video it's a huge difference, but probably the time and effort going into the videos are probably the same.
Yeah.
So it's very huge prop to actually putting down the time to actually create this kind of series.
I feel like towards the end of the series, it's not even the same. It gets even harder because you're trying to tie everything together. You're trying to make the boring topics about refactoring not boring and stuff like that. So it's just hard to keep that motivation for a series, but they are super helpful. We still call a hardcore programmer.
Yeah,
he does pretty good with. I've learned a lot from him, and he was definitely one of the inspirations for me to start my channel and hopefully teach people.
Talking about videos, I randomly thought about now how the null safety has been a core thing right now that I've been working on. So every time I'm making a video, I've been having to explain oh, don't forget that at required is going to change to required with null safety. So making videos when all of these new features coming out all of the time is also super hard.
Yeah, and then also the kind of shitty thing is all the videos that we've already made, null safety not going to work for that.
Yeah.
Didn't get to make them with sound null safety, but I mean, according to Flutter, they'll still be working pretty good. Maz says, what about a video on responsive design for web, small phones, and big phones? Well, it's this Saturday. Tune into Robert's channel. They will have one.
That is actually plan for the course that I want to get to whenever I get the time to get to it. I want to make an app that you can follow along, and it will pretty much be like the videos that I have on the channel right now, and it will feature all of those things. But it's getting to create the course takes a lot of time, and it's hard to get to that as well. But yeah, like videos on YouTube will be like most of the things you don't even have to actually buy courses. Most of the things you can learn from YouTube. It's just that the difference with a course and YouTube is that you have to find those neat pieces on YouTube and just build it together to get the complete knowledge. That's probably the main thing that you purchase for.
Yeah. And I have purchased a ton of them. I feel like they're definitely worth it because you get to, everything's organized for you and like without searching. And like I feel like especially when you're searching for stuff online, you search for stuff but you don't know if it's the right thing, and then now it's all put together and it's nice. I had a question for you. Where was it? Oh, so they brought up some embedded stuff. Did you catch like what was the thing with embedded?
Like mostly what looks like is that, so for example, which company or car company was it now again? I forgot what it is. Yeah, Toyota. So my guess is that when they build the apps for Toyota, the screen or the devices they have is not actually like a normal Android phone or a normal like iOS phone or whatever. They actually have, as an example, they can maybe use the AOSP or the Android open source code, and they build it on top of their platform. So maybe they have like their own, let's say, custom phone that they have built the Android source code on. And then with embedded, I guess they are able to have it just as an Android or a Android app on top of it, and they get a lot of the native support that they actually want to have for communicating with their specific device. That is actually, or that is my guess of why it works or what they actually wanted to talk about. It's really hard to actually understanding those kind of parts when you haven't worked with embedded and all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have any plans to work with embedded or any videos for embedded?
Not really, actually. Maybe in the future. It's a very, like, a topic on that doesn't really. A lot of people usually want to build for like apps or web. Not that many just want to like, oh, let's learn embedded.
Yeah.
Like, so, but maybe in the future. It depends.
I think I've been thinking about it a bit because like I did embedded for my job. Yeah. So like, I'm like, oh, let's see how much easier it is to do it with Flutter. But then they're also like it's hard to find a good topic for that as well.
Yeah,
I feel like it's also harder to showcase it in video format because, like, I mean, your code runs and what are you gonna make an LED blink? Like,
yeah.
On code, you could actually show like responsiveness and teach a bit more here. Yeah.
I had some question, but I forgot what it was. Yeah, I forgot. Never mind.
Guys, what was your background before Flutter? You go first.
Yeah. So my background before I worked with Flutter was I went on a 1.5 year course for SharePoint, and then getting into the first company, I didn't really work with SharePoint that much. So I was just working mostly with React, building websites and internal websites. And during that time, I worked a lot myself on Flutter apps, and yeah, of course, starting making videos later on as well. And then I got hired into working at Volvo. So I worked on pretty much the infotainment system for what you can see pretty much the same as what they showed on Toyota, but for Volvo trucks. And now I'm working in cross-platform development.
My background is got a degree in computer engineering, so like I was just learning all the basic stuff. I did a lot of things with hardware languages like VHDL and Verilog, so it doesn't even correlate like at all really. But But then I started working with embedded and C at my job, and then C++ a bit. And then I just started working with Flutter because it was more fun, and I like building mobile apps. I could actually, I did software for trucks, so there's like a lot of safety measures you have to make sure. And most of the job is actually, if you are looking to get into that field, most of the job is going to be dealing with documentation and like papers. I'd say like almost 70 to 80% of it is that in like a safety critical workplace. So that at home, it was kind of nice to get something that like, oh, you could see it working. We could quickly do stuff and update things.
Yeah, I remember from working at Volvo, we saw like, we had a lot of like, well, not pressure, but we have, I can't explain it in words, but a lot of our like time was put into actually testing our systems that we built. So unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing. A lot of that was a big like point of what we were developing, and like going and watching the Flutter community and stuff like people build apps with. It's a really big change to see how they work in a really big company where safety is such a big thing. And then when people make apps, and a lot of the times there are very new developers that don't unit test or test anything at all. Like, and it's a very hard thing to bring into videos. Like, you should test more, or you should do all of these things, because that's not really most of the time the fun part that you want to do. You usually want to be like nice looking apps and UIs and animations and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, testing, you shouldn't test your apps. I'm just kidding. But actually, surprisingly, like my videos about testing did relatively good, and I know.
Yeah, same. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah. So maybe it's not that bad, but I think Francesco's going to be coming too. Nice. So I removed that from the other screen from this because I feel like, I mean, all this other stuff is about learning how to do specific things, and if you're interested, they're going to be on the Flutter YouTube channel afterwards, so take a look at that.
Yeah.
But I feel like these events are a little bit less interesting than the announcements. Testing is hell. Nah. Testing, if you're building an actual app, then I definitely make sure you do testing, like a ton of testing. Well, my go-to recommendation is always to build your MVP product. Maybe you don't have to do any testing, maybe a little bit just to make sure you got things working, then be able to show it off and everything and show that it's working. And then once you're actually releasing to production, you should definitely test like well.
Yeah. So unit test versus widget test versus integration test, how much should you do of each? So there are no like hard rules. Even at big companies, they don't have like hard rules of how much of each you should have. It's more of a case of what you actually need. So integration testing, like end-to-end testing, like everything that tests like the whole thing in a normal usage is of course the best, but also takes the most time to implement. Like widget and unit testing are very easy to implement as a developer, and it's very easy to maintain as well. So like my point of view, you should like test just as much as you can, pretty much. And if you feel like tests are useless, just remove the test. Don't use that test if you don't feel any value of it. But you shouldn't have a hard rule of you should have 70% of the integration testing and 30% of like unit and widget testing. Like these cases doesn't really make much sense in a real use case, but like you test these things that makes most sense to you. But of course you can also have like limits to like we should have 100% unit testing or 100% widget testing. It's all up to you in the end. It depends on how much you want actually tested.
Yeah, I just agree with Robert on this one. All right, we got Francesco joined. So, hello, Francesco.
Hey.
Hey, Robert. Hi, Tadas. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, finally, I'm a guest.
So, Francesco, you're super new to Flutter. We just tried it out recently for the first time a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, thank you again. Yeah,
no problem. So, did you watch this whole event?
Almost yeah, jumping back and forward from Twitter, but yeah, I was there. Yeah, I seen something very interesting. As for example, I don't know about the web stuff, so I know absolutely nothing about that. Super excited about the Google AdMob because I have already an account working with Google AdMob, so this could be interesting. Yeah, super interesting.
I have a question. So, like, Francisco, coming from like your point of view, not being like into. So for me, like watching these things, I have like experience in Flutter development for like 3 years now. Like, what is your impressions of Flutter, like when coming out like into it now?
Are you talking about the event or from the?
Like, it can be generally about Flutter as like after impressions of the event, of course, as well.
Okay.
But
I have a background of mobile development as Unity 3D, and I also done some basic Android with Java, not Kotlin but Java. And I seen that I'm really impressed about Flutter. I was a little bit skeptic about Dart, but Tadas changed my mind really fast, pretty fast. So I'm also excited about the Dart language. Probably the language that I'd like to know, like snapping my fingers now. About I love the Hutter load because I've tried to develop some, for example, some games with Unity. Which is great, but every time you need to press a play button, you need to install the application inside the phone. So maybe there are some other ways, but it has been super easy to And
I remember from like testing out Unity quite a while ago. It was very hard to set up all of these kind of things in the beginning.
Yeah, after a while you get used. This can really make the difference during development. And also, I think, if you use Flutter, you don't have the watermark. For example, I have an application with Unity. Store. I don't want to pay for the Unity Pro because I'm not that pro. But I have that watermark that I'd like to move. So this could also be interesting. But I've created some simple 2D games that I think that could also be done with Flutter.
I know they're like there's been a package that's been developing for quite a while now. I think it's called Flame, where a lot of like developers have built nice 2D actual 2D games. I haven't really worked with it at all, but like under the hood, Flutter is they explain it very similar to how Unity works as well. So it's pretty much a game engine on top of like Android and iOS.
Nice.
So
And I've also, for example, I've tried the Ionic. But it's I don't know. For me, it has been a nightmare because I've never managed to build an APK. Maybe it's me. Maybe I don't know. I was not that expert, but I had to use the capacitor or something. I didn't manage to do that. So I remember that during the live stream, I asked Tadas, okay, let's try to actually build the APK. He says, okay, you just do build the APK. I can't remember the exact command now. But I was impressed. I was skeptic about you can really do this with just a command. I was thinking that we needed maybe to set up something before. Instead, this has been really. I'm super curious to try this on iOS. I have an iPhone at home and a MacBook, so I would like to try that. And then maybe I'm super interested into the Google AdMob. Try to insert some banner. Maybe I'll check some of your videos, Robert. But
probably both me and Tadas will put up a video on that.
Nice. Why not bot? Yes.
So, as an outsider, Francesco, how do you see now that let's pretend everything's stable now? Flutter supports web, mobile, and then all desktop apps. What do you think?
I think that this could be a total new branch when you can also get started into development. Maybe also if you are super new. Maybe
Yeah.
you can choose, for example, this. Maybe it will be a kind of strange decision, but this could be a decision. For example, I started with Unity 3D, C# instead of just, I don't know, doing HTML. I've done HTML in the past, not say about getting serious in development. I started in not a conventional way, but almost nobody does that. So yeah. So
Yeah, what I've seen like over the years is like very early on when they had jobs about Flutter, it was a lot about like you have to have native experience with Android and iOS as well, because there weren't a lot of packages that already had most of the things already implemented.
Yeah.
But it's like it's really looking, or it's really cool seeing that maybe in the future that people actually educate themselves to be Flutter developers, targeting all of these platforms instead of being like starting with native and then going into Flutter. Like, of course, it would be nice to have all of these different experiences of native and stuff like that.
Of course.
But like being able to just be a Flutter developer sounds really cool. And like being able to say that you are developing apps, developing websites and desktop applications, it really adds quite a lot to companies.
Yeah, I love the idea. I also said this to Tadas that it's mobile first. So for example, Unity you can create a desktop application and also Android, also iOS. But the default one is the desktop. Then you have to switch to Android, set up a lot of stuff. And also, for example, another good thing that I've noticed that you have access directly to the Android manifest, for example.
Yeah.
For example, if you do a Unity application, you don't have the direct access to the Android manifest. You need to, I don't know, I written a long procedure somewhere on my Google Drive about which field you need to change in order to modify the Android manifest. But if you have access to that directly, you can handle permissions, the stuff that you want to import. So it's way easier. I missed that when I switched to Android basic development to Unity 3D. Yeah.
So
that is probably one of the things. Yeah, you can go.
I got one question for you now. So like you said, or actually, no, Francesco said something that like it's mobile first. So it is definitely now mobile first, but I'm curious, do you think it'll become, in the future, it'll become something where it's like, it's not mobile first. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's everything first. I don't know.
I don't know. It depends. It always depends on the number of people who use that. So you need to make more videos, basically.
So like, it's a hard question. So it depends pretty much of what the use case is of the application or the website or like the desktop application. So if you are a small company and you, let's say you have a already established desktop application for Windows, then maybe that is like the primary audience. Then you don't really care about a app or a normal app. And like seeing how Canonical or like Ubuntu is pushing the Linux support, as well as Microsoft as well. Like it could be like you don't really focus that much on like the mobile parts of it. Like of course you are going to like seeing from web how it was like desktop first before, then moving like normal web application now to mobile first. Like I think that's probably the best use case still to implement from, like going from mobile first to being in the responsiveness of mobile first to like desktop last. But you get that at the same time when working on like these desktop applications. So like having that hot reload function in desktop applications as well is like super powerful, because you can do all of the things at the same time pretty much. It's like it's very cool to see.
My hope is that it ends up being where it's not mobile first, but it's kind of becomes what you need first, where it doesn't really everything works like the same, well, like just as well on every platform, and you can just kind of decide, oh, I need this, and this, you pick out, and then you can just use it, and then it'll be like, let's say you need desktop apps, you're like, all right, is desktop first, like.
So like a lot of desktop application actually limit you, so you don't, so you're not able to actually make it as like small as a normal application. So in those cases, then it's like a desktop first use case, because they maybe just want that desktop application out on all of different platforms. And some like applications for apps, they don't really care about like target tablets, because they have a use case of mobile apps, but they have it on Android and iOS. Then their use case is to have it on just one code base for mobile for mobile applications. And then just some like all of these different things depends, but it's nice to have that option. And then just if you wanted to have like completely cross-platform, then it just applies to all of this, or responsiveness, and it just applies automatically to all of this.
Yeah, I think this is the dream that we are pursuing. I don't know, since the 90s, even before the smartphones. We want something to rule them all. Those basically.
There's a pretty good question in the chat. It says, "Tell us more about Flutter Web. How is it changing the web development?" I want to go first. I think it's either going to completely change it, or it won't change it much. I feel like it'll be a good PWA at the minimum, I think, which already kind of exists. There are multiple options, so that's already a thing. Like, it's not going to be a big change. It's just going to be another option. Maybe it'll be one of the top options, but I don't think it's going to be changing the web development industry as a whole. So that's the minimum option. But I think if they figure out like SEO and all of that and all the other, I think there's definitely a couple other big issues with Flutter Web. But from my experience, at least, it's definitely easier to develop a web app with Flutter than it is with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, like whatever CSS frameworks. They're just like, to build a website, you need like at least 5 different languages, and you're like, all right, it's not bad. Like learning either one isn't like bad on its own, but then you kind of put it together, you get confused. Like for HTML, there's like tags at the beginning and tags at the end to go to your JavaScript code, and you're like, all right, like it's not too bad. But like having with Flutter, like it's just, you're building widgets. Like I like to explain it always. You're just building a layer of widget trees, and then you just kind of show what you want to show, and everything works. I feel like if it's capable to do everything that they say it might be capable of in the future, then it just becomes a really good option to make web development, web sites like overall.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Anna, I mean, maybe this could be a good solution from the developer point of view. So if you know that you can create a website or a mobile application, you can find maybe different clients. Maybe it's not the common solution, because I don't think the JavaScript will die tomorrow. But this could be good from a Flutter development point of view, that you can create something.
Yeah, I agree totally, actually. So coming from like background of making app or websites as well, like there are like things that Flutter can't target, or at least of my knowledge. So for example, how Next.js does it to make server-side rendered apps. I don't think that is like a use case for Flutter, and there is use cases for companies and like people that actually want that kind of like features. But like just having the option to additionally target web is a huge plus for the developer. Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah. I also said that I liked that they are trying to support also different devices. We were talking about this, Robert, before. Yeah. I'm not a super fan about this, flexible devices. So I don't know if this is worth, by a developer point of view, to put a lot of effort into that. But it's good that they are looking for some new stuff. I don't know if you can have an answer to this. How is, for example, Flutter with AR or VR? If they have support today or not?
So, to my knowledge, I haven't really looked into like these AR and VR features. But my understanding is that people are built like packages for like doing all of these implementations in Unity, and then hosting that Unity application or like game, or what you will explain it, in the Flutter app. I haven't seen how the performance is and any kind of things about that, I had some person reaching out to me and showing an example of it, and it performed really good for the showcase he had. I don't know if I can find that showcase now, but it's possible. But I think like the main thing is that you will probably do it in things like Unity and then host that instead.
Yeah, but okay, maybe in the future, maybe in a couple of years, maybe when this will be more mature, maybe they will open, of course, this support. It's not that we need that today, but maybe in a couple of years. I don't know. That could be interesting. Yeah.
So there's a comment about how Flutter is not really good with animations and performance, even in Android, Flutter Web 2. And that kind of made me, I want to hear your opinions about it, but I kind of got curious. I didn't actually go to this flutterplasma.dev site, so we could take a look if it works well.
Okay.
This is loud. How do I turn it down?
It was loud.
All right, I got to stop it.
But, I can say something. I think that compatibility is more important maybe than performance, because you can always improve performance. Instead, compatibility maybe it's harder. So if it's compatible, if it's really cross-platform, maybe one day they'll fix these problems and everything will be smooth. Instead, if you have, for example, if you don't have the iOS support, maybe you will never have, maybe because we have problem with I don't know. So maybe compatibility it's more important.
Yeah, of course. So like if your primary aim is to have performance, like then it's probably not cross-platform that is what you're looking for. Like Flutter gives good performance, but if you're comparing it to native will give better performance however you implement it, because it's still a layer on top of it.
Yeah, but it's like talking about vanilla JavaScript and using React. So it depends on your needs, but usually, the devices will become more powerful. So maybe you will have more power. So maybe this will tend to disappear. Maybe also. I don't know if this is a performance issue or something different. I don't know, because I've never seen this animation. I'm joking about those, but I've never seen. But I think this is something that could be solved, I think.
Yeah. So to my understanding, the problem right now that most people are talking about is like the shader issues. So when you have an animation that it transitions too fast, the shaders has to load first. So Unity already handles this, because when you open a game, you have that loading screen in the beginning that makes it possible for the game to load in the shaders before it actually happens or before they are used. With Flutter, you don't have that initial long loading screen. You have a very short one. But like I read a post from, I think it was Tim on Reddit, where he talked about there are different like things that can be made to like fix or improve this issue. Either you can have a longer loading screen on iOS, or you can make performance like improvements on the specific shaders. And that's why they want as many like issues and examples of the specific shader issues that they can, because depending on what kind of shader is causing the issue, then that one needs improvements. So it's not just like they need to have one issue and that issue will fix all of the performance like issues that they have open on the site. So it's a bit like more complicated topic, but it's, to me, I haven't really seen such a big issue on it, because a lot of the times apps and stuff like that don't heavily rely on animations, especially like production. If you look at a lot of production like apps and websites, they don't like have a ton of animation. They have a nice UI, but like as soon as you add a lot of animation, it takes time to actually navigate. It brings like poor user experience. But like, of course you can have small like touch of animations to make things look great, but I haven't really personally seen that big of an issue with it.
I think if you get compatibility cross-platform, you can use the time maybe to create something simple. You don't need. It depends. If your application is all about animations, maybe Flutter is not the best solution. But it depends on your needs. if you need, I don't know, a bank application or something, it needs to work on to cross-platform. Maybe it has, in my opinion, it has more use cases because usually companies they want cross-platform compatibility. They don't want smooth animations. Usually, I don't know. It depends on the needs, of course.
Yeah, I think this comment on YouTube here like explains it pretty good. I think animation is something being overused because it's available freely. So animations is like very easy to implement in Flutter, and a lot of packages already have this for you. So a lot of people overuse animations without like thinking about it because it's so easy to implement. Like it becomes a backlash of it. Like
Yes. Okay. So there is a solution. So they should just remove these packages.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to address it. Like I think animations they're not as necessary as people think for most apps, and if your app is necessary for it, so there's definitely like times where it's really useful, and then you can sorry, I got distracted by a comment. There's things you could do to like make it better with the loading screen and everything, and then Flutter says they're working on it, so hopefully it's not going to be an issue. And then someone's saying Flutter Plasma is just a video. I would have been impressed if you could actually interact with it. So nothing an iframe video doesn't already do. No need for a framework to wrap a video. So I don't think this is a video. Like I'm looking through the source code. These are all. I think it's a video. Yeah, these are all like tween animations and stuff like that. If you go to the intro.
So I think they are painting.
Yeah, so this is a play animation. There is, yeah, and I think they're using the painter tool to do all this stuff. Yeah, timeline tween. I think these are all like animations done with Flutter.
Yeah, things that I can't implement because I don't know math.
Yeah, and then like in terms of performance, there's this research article from March 10th. So it's a little bit older. It's gotten better since then. And I mean, I'm not saying this is like the best, article for it, but if you look at all these like CPU intensive tests, Flutter is like faster than Swift for iOS, slower than Objective-C, but like, I mean, obviously here in this scenario, it's a lot slower. Like compared to React Native, and it's gotten better. And like everyone, it's not that far off of native. Like it is in terms of like within different tests, but like it's pretty close. Objective-C and Flutter would be a wise choice if you want to develop a super fast iOS app. Like I feel like it's not. It's definitely slower than native, like no doubt, but like not that bad. So it's 120% on GitHub code. Yeah, this is showing like the timeline tweens and all this stuff that's going on.
It's getting pretty late for me now, so I will probably have to leave. But it was really fun being here. Nice talking to you, Tadas, and Francisco as well. And nice having you all on the stream joining. It was really fun, like speaking to you and watching the event. Maybe we can do this in the future as well.
I think we got everything kind of covered here. I was thinking about ending it sometime soon. So I guess it's just perfect timing. But yeah, I thought this event was pretty fantastic. There seems to be like a ton of new stuff that's coming out to Flutter. It's exactly more than I was expecting. Actually, I feel like all the ad stuff. All like the removing hashtag from web, I thought that was just a thing that was going to stay here forever, but they introduced a ton of cool stuff, and I'm pretty excited for the Flutter future.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining with me.
Thank you. That's
People said do this more often, so we're gonna have to do this more often.
Whenever you want.
All right. Thanks for joining, and see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye bye.